Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome to the Federal Way City Council meeting for January 17th, 2023. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody. Okay, first item on the agenda, very exciting, promotional swearing in of our newest lieutenant, Jeffrey Mundell. And Chief Wong will start doing the honors.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Council President Kochmar, Deputy Mayor Honda, and members of the council. This evening, we would like to publicly recognize and celebrate the promotion of Corporal Jeffrey Mundell to the rank of lieutenant. Promotions are one of the most critical decisions chiefs make in their careers. Supervising police officers is enormous responsibility, and deciding who will make complex, important decisions that occur in real time in our streets is a significant undertaking. Our department has been in existence now for 26 years. The key ingredient of our success has been to promote the right individuals. Jeff is one of those individuals. He embodies our agency's core values, deserves this recognition, and has earned this promotion. Jeff has been with the Federal Way Police Department for over 15 years. Jeff began his law enforcement career with the Federal Way in 2007. In 2017, Jeff was selected to be a corporal. In this position, he has worked as an acting supervisor on numerous times and most recently served as an acting lieutenant assigned to D Squad. Before joining Federal Way, Jeff served 6 years of active duty with distinguished military service for the United States Air Force. He recently retired from the Washington State Air National Guard after 20 years of serving as E-7 Master Sergeant. Jeff is an honor graduate and a class leader of the Air Force Non-Commissioned Officer School and the United States Air Force Airborne Warning and Control System School. Over his career here in Federal Way, Jeff has worked on every shift of patrol and an impressive number of collateral assignments, including traffic, graduate of basic and advanced motorcycle school, major accident investigations unit, hostage negotiations team, field training officer, and honor guard, as well as being a graduate of the FBI hostage negotiator school. Some of Jeff's accomplishments are his work with the community. He constantly seeks opportunities to engage with the community in his commissioned officer role and in personal life. Jeff is a proud husband and a father of 3 young children, Allison, Chase, and Bristol. Called to service, Jeff has served our country, state, and community in some way since he was 21 years old. We are fortunate to have Jeff as a leader for our agency. Also joining Jeff here tonight is his wife, Nicole, who will be pinning on his badge. So Nicole, if you want to come up, you can. Allison, Chase, Bristol, you can also come up as well. Okay, I think we already congratulated, but please join me one more time congratulating Lieutenant Jeff Mundell for this significant achievement. So Nicole, why don't you come on up with Yeah.
All right, Lieutenant, let's make it official. Hi, Nicole. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I, Jeffrey Grant Mundell,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I am a citizen of the United States
that I'm a citizen of the United States
and of the state of Washington,
and of the state of Washington.
and that you will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Washington
of the state of Washington
and the laws and ordinances
and the laws and ordinances
of the city of Federal Way,
of the city of Federal Way,
and will, to the best of your skill and ability,
and will, to the best of my skill and ability,
truly and faithfully,
truthfully and faithfully,
diligently and impartially,
diligently and impartially,
perform the duties of lieutenant
perform the duties of lieutenant
in and for the city of Federal Way,
in and for the city of Federal Way,
and his duties prescribed by law.
and its duties prescribed by law.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, we're okay. Yeah, that's fine. All right, congratulations, Lieutenant. And actually, did you want to introduce, did we introduce your kids?
Sure. This is Allison, my 11-year-old, Bristol, my 2-year-old, and then Chase is my 7-year-old.
Welcome. Should we do a group picture? Yeah. Hey, you guys, let's, we love to do group pictures. You guys, why don't we, let's all the council come down and we'll get the family and the council all together.
Oh, Erica, your first day back. Come on.
All right, we're on our way.
Smile.
Mayor, did you want Andy in there also?
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
He's so young here tonight, makes us look good.
Cheryl, good thinking.
Been there the whole time. That was a good segue. That was a good
Yeah,
segue.
exactly. Thank you. Good job.
No.
Okay, now, as they, it's not official till we take a picture, right, Brian? Everybody ready? Oh, actually. Go ahead, let's get started. At the last, let's see here. We've got some updates we want to provide people with. And the first is the update on the Stevenson Motel application. With that, City Administrator Brian Davis. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. During the past week, there's been a lot of attention given to a land use application that the city received from Catholic Community Services to convert the former Stevenson Motel into temporary emergency shelter. And so we're here to talk a little bit about that tonight and where we are in the process. Just as background,
Can you
yes.
talk into the microphone just a little bit more?
Can
Much
Thomas,
better.
can you turn the
Much
volume
better.
up maybe?
Thomas, order a taller mic, please.
Or I think you can turn the volume up.
All right, okay.
I can hear you.
Is that
We're good. We're good. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Talking about the Stevenson.
Okay.
Okay. So as background, late 2021, in response to House Bill 2020, the mayor and council came together and recognized that the legislature had passed a law that said, among other things, that cities like Federal Way could not prevent emergency shelters from being located in zones that allow hotels. That's the short version. So we do have zones that allow hotels. And so the next step for the mayor and council was to talk about what standards or limitations could the city put to provide direction for anyone who came in for an application to make a shelter. And in this case, that's what's happening here. We have heard and we have had several conversations with King County Homeless KCHA.
Housing Authority.
Housing Authority. For the red line, as you are well aware. That is behind schedule, and for that reason, we are talking about the Stevenson Motel, because there currently is no shelter, and so they're looking for alternative solutions until the red line is ready, and that's why they're looking at the Stevenson. So when we talked about this in late 2021, oh yes, I'm sorry. So CCS, the bottom bullet point here, is that the Stevenson Motel has 22 rooms. So that's what we're talking about. Red Line has more, but this is a temporary proposal. So again, what we did in late 2021 was approve standards. And we had many meetings about this, and we had input from the public, and we had many deliberations at the Planning Commission and the Land Use Committee and City Council, and eventually we passed these standards. And I'm not going to go through all of these. It says abbreviated up there. Even with the abbreviated version, there's still a lot of things that we talked about as a city that we wanted to have in place. The highlights are that we couldn't locate a shelter within 1,000 feet of a school or another shelter, and it had to have all state licenses that it needed to have, and then needed to be close to convenient shopping and transit. And services had to be operated by a reputable manager, basically, of someone that has experience with this, and then also have the staffing and security in place based on the number of occupants that it was proposing. That we, as part of the approval process, that we take into consideration the impacts that it may potentially cause to traffic and other public utilities as a result of it being located at the whatever proposed location that it was going to be, and that it was in compliance with other applicable health, fire, safety standards that the city recognizes and co-adopts. There is a written, and this was again part of the discussions that we had as a council, was making sure there were two things. One was a community engagement plan. Another one was an operating plan, which was part of a license that we then talked about for these, especially for permanent supportive housing. But again, I'm going to focus on the community engagement plan and the operating plan. First, the community engagement plan. There are three main things: how it's going to engage with the community. It can't just be like something that's buried in the corner of a property and we never hear about it. There has to be engagement with the community, and we have to know how that's going to be. The connection point is how the facility will respond to complaints from the community, the communication channels for that to happen, and then who's a point of contact at the facility. And again, these are all things that the council made sure were in place before we took in an application. Then the operating plan. Again, this is small font. It's not intended for you to be able to read it, but it's just to emphasize that we went through lengthy discussions, and I'm not going to go through this at this time. But there was an operating plan that the council wanted to have in place. And again, if anyone wants a copy of this to read the specifics, we can certainly provide that. It's also in our code. But it's to emphasize that the council took their time to make sure that there were standards in place when we got an application. And they did that. And so that's, with that background in place, that's what we're talking about now, is that we've got the standards in place and now we have an application. And we received that from CCS for the Stevenson Motel. This is the location. Again, there's 22 rooms available for this to happen. The mayor and council also said that this should be what our land use code calls a use process 3. There are different, use process 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. This is a 3, which means that there has to be an opportunity for, all of our processes have opportunity for public input, but this one specifically says that we have to notice what's going on here. We have to put a big sign on the property, or the applicant does, that says this is what's happening on the property. We have to put it in the newspaper. We have to put it on our website. We have to mail it to residents within 300 feet, both at the time of application and when the decision is made for anyone who has requested to receive the decision. So that's what's coming up this Friday. So to back up a little bit, this all started when there was news of a meeting that was taking place, which was last Thursday. It was an internal staff meeting that we have every week for applications like this and others. So if you're wanting to convert a business into something else, or even some residential permits, single-family residential permits, depending on the complexity, it could be on this agenda as well. It's a weekly meeting that we have to talk about how an application can best move forward. So last week's agenda had many items. This was one of them. And the review team determined that the application was complete. And so as a complete application, it needs to move on to the next step, which is notifying the public. Because we don't want to notify the public if the application's not complete, because we don't even know if it's going to move forward. But now that it is complete, there's something to look at. There's something for the public to, if they want to request a copy of the application, they can get that and see what's being proposed. Again, the approval criteria, which I went through just before this, that was approved by the council, proposed by the mayor, approved by the council. So you have set in place the standards for this to take place. And then the review is done by staff. The decision is administrative. The decision can be appealed. So if someone looks at the application, they believe that the review has not adequately addressed the criteria that you have put forth, they can appeal it. It's totally within their right to do so. So I believe that is it for that. I'm happy to answer any questions on where we're at with that.
Councilmember Cepheus-Dawson.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I have, one is correction where you said KCHA. I think it's KCRHA.
You're right, I'm sorry, yes.
Regional
Two different things.
Homelessness, yeah.
Thank you for that.
But you had public schools on there as a place where they should not or cannot build?
Within
1,000.
Within 1,000 feet? How about
Yes.
daycares and private schools? Because it specifically says public schools there. Does that include any schools?
So public schools is what is the language that we came up with. I don't know if it covers, I'm gonna ask our development director if he knows if it encapsulates more than just the traditional public schools or not.
Good evening, Keith Niven, Community Development Director. So we did talk about that, and this is the language that's in the city code right now. And as we went through those parameters and those criteria, there was a conversation about private schools and other things, and we agreed to start here with public schools and not include a lot more things, because as you start to add other factors, it makes fewer and fewer locations where these can actually locate, right? Because when you start putting 1,000 feet amongst all those different things, there may be no land left in the city. And so what we evaluated was distance from each other and from public schools only, and that gave us a certain reasonable amount of locations that could happen within the city.
And if I could just add to that, we also can't provide so many restrictions in the 1,000-foot rule to where it becomes a de facto moratorium. That we won't be allowed to do that, because we would get appealed and say, look, your zoning allows it, but your zoning really doesn't allow it, so you need to fix it. So that's the approach that we took.
I feel like schools are, where you have children attending whatever type of school it is, so just a little concerning, but, okay. And daycares also would be the other concern I have, but thank you.
Council President?
Well, I think that that should be looked at. I don't think that we shouldn't be, public schools and private schools, we should be looking at those the same. And not only that, I think we should be looking at daycare as well. There are Montessori schools that provide educational institution as well. And I don't think we have that many in our city that would preclude, for example, I don't think this is more than 1,000 feet from the Christian Faith Center private school. So I don't think that, there aren't that many in our city that would preclude them from citing. But I think that we need to look at our code with regard to public schools and revise what we're doing with that. I think that that is something we should look at. For example, if I have a private school and you're going to cite within 1,000 feet of the private school because there's only 200 people in that private school, I'm going to be, as a parent, just as upset as if they were in a public school. I would have a big problem with that. So I think we should be looking at that with regard to our own city, not with regard to other cities.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Walsh, and then Councilmember Dovey.
Yeah, I agree with Council President Kochmar with that. And the question is if it did say, if our current code were to say private schools and daycares, would this be, have we taken a look, would this be within more than 1,000 feet from those facilities? Do we know? We looked at
A
it.
quick response to your question. So 1,000 feet it's not even to, so the Fusion Family Center is 2,000 feet from this location. So half distance to that, all the way around, I don't know if there would be any. The only question would be the neighboring neighborhood to the east. There might be some private at-home facilities that we don't know about, that we'd have to track down and find out if they have a business license, and then if so, then look at that.
Okay. I do think that we need to review the code and see, I mean, I don't think it's right to treat private schools differently than public schools. Take a look at that, and then, like you're saying, I mean, it's, you can't have it so that it precludes every place, according to the legislature. So if we did add private schools and daycares, would we still be within the spirit of the
Yeah,
state
and
ordinance?
that's a great, we haven't done that analysis to see if it would be. But to Keith's earlier point, yeah, go ahead.
So if I can remind the council, the city is in the process of receiving its new figures for both permanent supportive housing and emergency housing and shelter from King County as part of our comprehensive plan update. And I shared those numbers with you folks maybe about a month ago, tail end of last year. And so we're going to have to relook at our code and our spacing requirements based on the housing needs that we're getting from King County. So I want to just remind you all that that is coming. We have to look at this again and make sure that we can accommodate the numbers that we're receiving as part of our GMA required housing needs. That's part of the comprehensive plan update.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Dovey?
Yeah, just for clarification, this is a temporary siting. What's the timeline? How many months, or what are we talking about?
I don't know the answer to that. The intent, or at least we understand it, it's to provide a bridge in the timeline between now and when the red line opens.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going down the line with Red Lion. Are we talking 6 months, do you think? Is it a year? Is it 7 months?
We've been trying to get that information, and we don't know.
Nobody knows how long it's going to take to finish the Red Lion?
Yeah.
Well, there's a dispute that reportedly between King County and the provider that was refurbishing that. There's our understanding that
That's the rest of the story?
Well, yeah, exactly, Paul Harvey kind of thing. There was some sort of contamination, we believe, and we've heard, at that site. And so as they were trying to get that ready to go, they got high-centered on that project essentially, and that stalled it out. And so trust me, as we got into the fall and it started getting colder, I started getting very concerned about where that was at.
Well, you got to provide services, but I was just curious how long this temporary is.
Well, you know what? It's something that we ask along. Brian, let's call down, talk to the director of the Regional Homelessness Authority, the RHA, And let's do our best to figure that out, and wherever we're in King County government itself.
Yeah.
Okay? And then as soon as we know it, you'll know it. All right, then we've got Deputy Mayor, and
Thank
then Councilmember Norton.
Thank you very much. So I was going to ask about the Red Lion. Has any work been done on the building, or we don't know?
So we're talking about an application for the Stevenson Motel. We don't even have an application for the Red Lion.
Oh, it hasn't even come that far?
No.
So then we'll assume that no work's been done on it, and, okay.
We assume so, because most of what we anticipate they're doing would require a permit, so, and usually they've been a good player as far as permitting goes, so I don't think that they're gonna be doing work without permits.
All right. So it says the decision is appealable. Can you just explain how that appeal would be, if somebody wanted to appeal this decision, how they would go about doing that?
They would, when the decision is made, the notice would go out to, I believe, to those who've requested in the notice portion of the process.
So anybody that participates in the process is considered a party of record and receives a copy of the decision.
And they're the ones who could appeal it.
Yes, they would have standing.
So they would just contact the city to say they want to appeal it. And they would be told how.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
There's a,
Thank you.
Stephanie could speak more, but there's a fee and an
Oh, okay, there's a
Yeah,
fee, okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
appeals are not cheap.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
But there's a process.
yeah.
All right, Councilmember Norton.
Okay, this is for Director Niven. So what would be the disciplinary action or repercussions for the city if we did not adhere to King County's demands for providing the housing, like all your, when you gave a presentation a little while ago about, meeting those needs, and it looked like they were kind of scattered throughout the entire city. What if we didn't agree to do that as a city? Have they told you what would happen?
So we haven't had those explicit conversations. Typically, what would happen is we would be no longer eligible for state and PSRC grant monies if we were out of compliance.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Walsh.
Yeah, just going back to the Stevenson again. So the internal committee met, and so it went through. So that means that, has the public notice already gone out, or is it still to go out?
It's scheduled to be this Friday.
Okay, public notice scheduled to be this Friday. And if people do want to make comment, how do they do that?
There's instructions on the notice form. You
Okay.
can, really, we'll take comments if they want to email us or but there's instructions on the notice, but
Okay.
if they want to contact me or Keith or the mayor,
Yeah.
we'll take comments.
Obviously, in effect, there's been pretty much good public notice
Yeah.
right now, but anyway. And then what is the timeline after that for when the permit would be
So,
issued?
yeah, so we take in the public comment, and then we take into consideration everything that's been raised. So it's maybe factors that we didn't consider, and then we incorporate that into a decision, whether, because the decision is not just a yes or no, it's usually a yes with many conditions. Most notably, the warehouse, or the IRG one had 40-some conditions when we approved that. So, and I just went through the criteria of everything that they would have to meet to get an approval. So there's likely going to be a lot of conditions to if it's a yes, there's likely going to be a lot of conditions to that. So, and many of those conditions may include the input that we receive from the public.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments, let's move on to our next item, which is the update on the shopping cart ordinance passed last year.
Okay, so at the request at the last meeting to get an update on where we're at with shopping carts and the ordinance that was passed recently. Here is a snapshot, and again, this is moving very quickly, so a lot of what I have to say is not ready yet. Most notably, we're ordering vehicles that are not expected to arrive for a year, but that, rest assured, that's not stopping us from moving forward with this ordinance. So, starting with the police side of things, so the sweeps and patrols will be coordinated between the police and our code compliance staff. Again, code compliance is the group within community development that will collect and catalog and retrieve the carts. Police will provide a presence for staff and the individual that is pushing the cart. So they'll do those during the week. The police will stop individuals if they're pushing a cart in the public right-of-way, and then they'll contact code enforcement to meet them at that location to then retrieve any belongings that the individual does not want to keep with them, and they'll also retrieve the cart at that point. The one thing that the city is not going to do is collect anything really of value, cash, medications, important papers, jewelry, that sort of thing. We're not collecting those. Those will be, and the instructions will indicate that. That's not something that we want to be responsible for, and we believe it's small enough that can be kept with a person. We'll also document all this with photographs. Then we'll issue a notice of infraction written by the police officer, and then code compliance will use that. It's like an invoice or a ticket number, I guess, if you will. We'll use that ticket number then to catalog the items that will be collected by staff, and they'll go into a labeling system at our undisclosed storage facility. These are some things that will be on the notice. I don't need to go into too much detail on that. And again, it'll indicate that after 60 days, if there's any unclaimed items, that it will be disposed of, and how to schedule an appointment to pick up your stuff if you want them, and then a signature line. Okay, and then we will provide a large plastic bag for individuals to put their cart belongings to take before the cart's impounded. And again, we don't need to get into this, but the bins will be labeled, and we'll have a system within the storage facility that will identify. It'll correspond to the ticket number and the shelving and so forth. And so we have a system in place, I guess is a short way of saying, to make sure that we know what belongs to whom. And then we'll have an oversized item procedure that will have a designated area in our storage facility. And then the way that they would pick it up is to make an appointment. The instructions will have on this, but the individual can contact City Hall or staff to make an appointment to come to City Hall to pick up their belongings. So staff will then go to the storage facility and bring it to City Hall in time for the appointment. And again, after 60 days, if anything is unclaimed, it will be thrown out. So staff safety is something that we continue to discuss. This is something that we want to ensure is in place before we get too far into this. If there's firearms or anything of concern that's left in the carts, the code compliance will immediately call police if they've left. We'll make sure that the work clothes are laundered professionally. And again, as I mentioned, we're discovering new things as we get deeper into this. So we'll make sure that this stays at the top of the list of things that we continue to review. And IT, is also looking at ways to make it easier for us, basically. So the cataloging system that I mentioned earlier, we're looking to provide that in a more automated way. And so they've been great partners in helping us brainstorm ideas to make that happen as well. So, things that we've ordered already, the shelving and the wheels, the storage bins, trash cans, sharps containers, puncture-resistant clothing and gloves, disposable aprons, a trailer to put the carts on. Again, the vehicles unfortunately are backlogged, but again, rest assured, this is not stopping us from moving forward. This we'll do double duty on some of our vehicles if we have to. And then additional personal protection equipment, respirator masks for the storage unit, and labels, the carbon copy notice again, which we haven't ordered yet because we're still finalizing the language on it, and then absorbent liners for storage bins. And storage facility, that is undisclosed location, and that is for security reasons. If you have any questions, we can talk to you individually, but we're not, in an open meeting, we're not going to disclose where that's going to be because so that we don't have any break-ins. And that is it. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So I have a few questions. We were going to hire someone to do this job. Has that person been hired?
We are in the process of doing that. We discussed it. We do have someone on staff that is initially going to answer the calls, and we will add staff as we need to, which we anticipate will be soon, excuse me. But we want to experiment, since we just have the one vehicle, of doing it with the existing staff, and then as it gets more demanding, we will add staff. We do have other vehicles that are not trucks and trailers, but we believe that by adding staff, even without that, they could engage in this program and provide valuable services without until the truck and trailer get here.
So this is not just for those who are homeless, but for those who are pushing groceries home from Walmart or any of the stores?
It's, if it's off premise in the right of way, doesn't matter who it is.
Okay. Does the police officer stay the entire time? Does the police officer stay the entire time that the items are being cataloged and stored?
Yes, so short answer, yes.
Because that's a safety
Yes.
concern.
Yes.
You've already answered my question about clothing, because they need to have the proper equipment so that they are safe from anything that they might catch or be exposed to. Is the storage facility, I realize you can't tell me where it is, but I'm hoping that it's located downtown so it's easily accessible to those who will have their items stored there.
So they're not going to access the facility at all. They're going to make an appointment, and we'll meet them at City Hall. We'll get their stuff, we'll bring it here for them to get.
So if City Hall is difficult for them to get to, can you find another location?
At this point, it's going to be City Hall.
Okay. And the supplies that are ordered, will this program not start until those supplies arrive?
We, ideally, yes. So the ones that we have ordered, we can, once we get those, we can start a basic implementation of the program. If someone calls right now, we'll probably just, we won't do the full process that I just outlined, but we will get in the practice of working coordination with code compliance and police and contacting the individual just as a matter of practice, if nothing else.
Okay.
So that we can be, but get a better understanding how this is going to work. I say we because I'm still in the community development mindset. I'm sorry, Andy, Chief Wong. But how code compliance and the police department can work together, and then and also to indicate to those that are pushing carts that this is an ordinance that we have on the books, if they haven't heard already.
So in the ordinance, and this is my final question, there are some things that the stores, the retailers have to do. Have they been notified? And are they on board with what it is that they need to do to comply with the ordinance?
Yeah, the signage, we have seen a lot more carts, notably Fred Meyer and Winco are some of the bigger ones that we have seen, the new signs and security measures for that matter
Okay.
on the carts. So that's been a good sign.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Council President, and then Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm curious, when you said lawn or work clothing, did you mean our individuals?
Employees.
Employees work clothing?
Yeah.
Because I was kind of hoping you meant work clothing that you found in the carts. Because I do think that there are people out there who are employed and not able to find housing that they can afford, even though they may be or may not be dealing with substance abuse of any sort. And I would love to find some way to help those kinds of people. So I don't know how you can separate those folks from the folks who don't want help. At any rate, I just thought I'd throw that out there for future discussion.
Yes.
But one of the things we're still having a big issue with is people sleeping in doorways, so that when employees go to work, they have to get them out of the doorways. Certainly when they're, I can't tell you, we've had many people stepping over people going into restaurants in the evening or sleeping next to buildings, and you can't blame them, they're trying to stay warm. What can we do about all of that?
I'm gonna,
Well, they should call 911.
Yeah.
If someone's blocking their ability to get into a building, they need to call 911. We'll take care of it. That's the only people, those are the only people that can respond.
It's an issue we need to deal with. Thanks.
All right. Councilmember Walsh, and then Councilmember Dovey, can you move that water pitcher? Because I can't see your, thank you very much. Councilmember Walsh.
He wants me to be thirsty now, so no,
All right.
no, that's a couple of questions. One is, have the police started giving any warnings to people yet? Letting them know that this is going to be enforced?
I don't believe so. I think, Chief, I don't know if you can speak to that. We have had meetings with the deputy chief and the leader of SOU, but I don't know if there've been any warnings yet.
No, we haven't started that yet.
Do you think it would be appropriate to start giving warnings?
Might not be a bad idea for a period of time, because if we give warnings, there's a good possibility that the number of people, pushing shopping carts, the numbers could be reduced prior to enforcement.
Yeah, I think that'd be an excellent idea to start letting them know, and that may help reduce it and give them, and they should have warning. So, secondly, I think that Deputy Mayor Honda mentioned about the stores, and has official notice been sent out to the stores on this, because it does definitely impacts them.
We have had, so official notice, I don't believe so. That's something we need to do. We have pretty good relationship with the stores, and most of the ones that we have contacted are aware of it. Official notice, that's something that we probably need to send out.
Yeah, I think that the official notice should be sent out, and also I just happened to run into the general manager of Winco this morning, and he wasn't fully aware of everything, and he asked that he be given full notification, full information. I filled him in a little bit and told him that something would be coming out to him from the city. And also with that, I think that it would be well to include in that the specific verbiage that the placard on the cart needs to have in order to comply with the ordinance and with the state law.
We'll do that promptly.
Okay.
We'll
All
do
right.
that right away.
All
And when
right.
it's done, we'll let council know that it's done.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Brian, let's confirm on that. Keith, we'll need to work on that, make sure that gets put out to every retailer that has a grocery cart. Okay? Okay, routinely. Okay, were there any other questions? Okay, great, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
All right. All right, the State of the City address that I'll be delivering will be at the Performing Arts and Events Center on February 16th. Doors will open at 5:30 p.m. and around 6 is when the speech will start. I invite everybody to come, and it will be on Channel 21 at a later date, but we want to make sure we get everybody there. That's usually a great event. And really, it's the first time we're having it in person since 2020. It's the first time in 3 years. So it'll be great to see everybody there, and we're going to have lots of booths and information. And please come one, come all. And that is February 16th, 5:30 p.m. Doors open. The City Council retreat will be this weekend. That's this Saturday at the Dumas Bay Center. Down at Dumas Bay. That is Saturday, January 21st. Doors will open at 8 a.m. and we'll get started at 8:30. A fresh hot breakfast will be provided, so we'll save you a couple pieces of bacon. Yeah, maybe. I got to get there before me and John get there. Anyway, it's a great opportunity to see the council. We've got a great event scheduled. We're going to go to like 3 or 4. What? 3? 3:30? Yeah, 3:34. It's a great opportunity to really we're going to talk about downtown economic development and just issues with the city, and we're looking forward to that. So, okay, recent events, actually, this past Saturday, Kia, would you mind coming up to the podium and tell the group about the wonderful event, and Trinice as well. And Trinice, I think you may have brought something? The entire commission. Well, you here. It's okay. Is that okay? Everybody. Let me brag on you a bit, Trinice. So that while they're making their way to the podium, Kia and the entire diversity commission that's present, please come on down, and Kia will need you at the podium. We had at the performing art while they gather. Trinice, do you mind if I talk while you guys are kind of gathering? Okay. So we had a tremendous event. Well, why don't I stop talking? Kia, why don't you tell us about the...
Go ahead, you go ahead.
All right.
You go ahead.
All right. Invite people to the podium and continue talking, otherwise known as Tuesday. I've been in Federal Way for well over, I grew up here as a kid, but I've also been here as an adult for the past 30 years. And I've been attending MLK events back when they were held at Decatur High School over 20 years ago, 25 years ago. This is the best MLK event and the best well-attended that I've ever seen in the city's history. And I think, I don't know, we were trying to figure out, it was in the hundreds of people that were there. The Performing Arts and Events Center, when I turned and looked, and the council members were there, and the community was there, it looked like the lower floor was almost completely filled. Had to be 400 or 500 people. It was tremendous. And then the Diversity Commission, I'm just going to brag on you for a minute, you guys. It was just great performances, great spoken word, the musical performances, the dancing, and also the messaging. I gave a little speech, but the whole thing was just really something as mayor that made me very proud as a community member, as a parent. And I want to say thank you very much. And but with that, Kia, you want to talk? Kia and Trinice and team, you want to? Trinice, why don't we have you? You want to start off, Trinice, and then we'll have Kia say a few words. And Evan, I know you were there too. And did you want to come on up to the podium as well? No, okay, all right, just checking.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have received tremendous community feedback as a result of our amazing MLK event this past Saturday. And in addition to that, we're just excited that we were in a position where we can provide great exposure, not just as a commission, but as a city to our fellow members in our surrounding cities. In addition to that, we're here today because we want to just offer our thank yous and congratulations and gratitude to Kia. She has been a driving force. It's one of those things where there's a difference, but you can't really put your finger on it, right? In our opinions as a commission, Kia has been a true, huge instrumental piece to this most recent effort. In addition to our amazing commission, we have a full staffed commission now, and so that is something that we are really excited about. But in terms of having that missed opportunity to publicly thank Kia during our event, we just want to take this moment to publicly thank Kia McGlone for her efforts, her unseen efforts, and just not only her efforts as she supports MLK, but as she is continually becoming acclimated in her new role as a DEI. We just want to thank her publicly for I just cannot, we cannot say enough how she has supported our commission in this effort. She has brought new vision, she has supported our current vision, and she has really brought this amazing event to fruition, in addition to great partnership with our commission. So with that, I would just like everyone to say, I would like everyone to just understand just the tremendous role that Kim McGlone has played in this event. And again, it was a huge missed opportunity to not publicly thank her this past Saturday. But now we want to say our thank yous, and not only that, but give her her flowers that is well overdue. Thank you.
Great job, Kia.
I don't have anything to say because I sent you all the video recently and making it publicly available. When you have to kick people out of the pack, that's a good sign, right? When you have to say, you got to go, we got to close the doors on a Seahawk playoff day, that speaks for itself. So I'm so proud. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Well, Kia, thank you. Great job. Commissioners, thank you so much for your work and your dedication on behalf of all the people of this community. We're really proud of the event that you put on. The council and I were present, and we're just really, it really made us proud to see all the parents and all the members of the community there. Great job.
Thank you.
Oh, Council President?
Oh, I just want to say thank you also to Teresa Hinojosa for your hard work at the tables before and after the commission was, the Diversity Commission, the performance was over. Thank you very much. And also, I received a call from Judge Larson, who was very upset that he missed it because he didn't get a notice. So apparently, Saturday and Monday, he needed to have an email from somebody.
Okay.
So Judge Larson said thank you, too.
Okay. All right.
I say, but
Yeah.
I have one question. Why was it held on Saturday instead of on Martin Luther King Day?
Trinice, you want to come back to the podium, Trinice?
Councilmember Walsh, thank you for acknowledging that. The reason why we wanted to pivot and not host this event on a Monday as usual, we wanted to pivot because we wanted to leave that Monday MLK Day of Service open to the community, in addition to alleviate the workload that our Federal Public School employees would typically have during those non-working days. So.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that answer. And MLK Day is the one federal holiday that is dedicated to being a day of service. And
Yes.
so, I mean, that is great that you wanted to leave it open for service that day. Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Mayor,
Yes, Deputy Mayor?
I can't find the video, so I don't know where that video was sent to.
Well, it got sent to me earlier. I didn't see who else was included on it, but we'll get it out. We'll get it on.
Okay.
Who did you send it to, Kia?
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
We'll get it
that.
out. And actually, most importantly, we got to get it, well, you guys will see it, but we got to get it over to Thomas so you can get it on Channel 21. Okay, great.
Awesome, thank you.
Great,
Thanks,
awesome.
Kia.
Thank you very much. Okay, oh yeah, because we actually had a professional photographer there that, David, that did a great job. And actually, Trinice, you were pretty funny about it. Was it you that were talking about how David was filming everything and it was going to all get on video? Because everybody likes to film these things. That's like, don't worry, we're going to get it all on film. So, was it you? That's right, okay. That's pretty funny. Okay. So, and we actually had the mayor and and the deputy of Auburn, the mayor of Auburn, Mayor Backus, the deputy mayor, and another council member that were present as well. So that was good. Okay, let's see here. I gave an address to the Chamber of Commerce regarding our city budget process, and was just bragging on the council about all the great work you did during the budget process, and as well as our new city administrator. We had the MLK community event. We had the food drive as well on 114. And we want to give special recognition to Fusion on the Cold Weather Center. And our friends at Fusion, can I have the people at Fusion come on up to the podium? And Sarah Bridgeford as well, our human services. Come on up. Come on, Sarah. So I do want to, let me just say a few things, and then I'll turn it over to the folks at Fusion and Sarah. But I just want to make sure, we wanted to add this because as you all know, we had a really bitter cold spell that came out in November and early December, and it was just really, really dangerous, frankly, because it got so cold so fast. And Fusion stepped right up. I wanted to make sure that, I had indicated to council and also, with Sarah, that we've got certain parameters in place, certain rules are in place when we activate cold weather shelter. Well, you have to be below a certain degree, and it has to be for more than 24 hours or a snow event, and it's like, well, that's all fine and dandy on paper, but even if you're close to that, it is so bitter cold, it's dangerous for the people that are out there. And I became concerned that we were becoming a little legalistic, and I wanted to make sure that we did everything we could as a community, as a city, to get people out of the cold. And talking to the council, I know that was a major priority for them as well. And Fusion stepped right up. And the efforts that you made, I've got a couple of bullet points here, but I really have to say that, I got a call from the Mirror right around, well, it was right before Christmas, and the Mirror had asked me, hey, do you know of anybody we should chronicle or somebody that has really stepped up? And I said, and immediately, without hesitation, I said, the people at Fusion. The people at Fusion literally saved lives in December and late November, and we really appreciate that. So I want to say this is the second year that you've been the provider for severe weather shelter, an essential service for the safety of our community. David Harrison and the staff have been excellent partners in providing shelter and safety to people experiencing homelessness. You were willing and committed in adding the moderate weather shelter as a pilot, which opened twice in November, December. That's where we're not strictly going exactly by the previous guidelines that have been in place forever. And that was absolutely critical. We opened 3 times. 3 openings occurred in the fourth quarter of last year in 2022, with 1 for the standard severe weather shelter and 2 for the moderate, just over that amount, temperature-wise. And we had a total of 16 nights in which shelter was provided. 46 individuals were served with 120 bed nights of shelter, keeping people safe during inclement weather and events. Thank you. So, can you come up to the podium, introduce yourself and what your role is at Fusion, and thank you for being here tonight.
Of course. My name is Katie. I'm the program manager at Fusion, and it's a pleasure to work for Fusion. It's a pleasure to serve the community, and on behalf of Fusion, I would like to just express our gratitude and our thanks to the City of Federal Way for being in partnership with us on this project. I'm happy to report that over the instances which you had mentioned, we were able to shelter about 46 unique individuals. And then on top of that, we were able to provide hot meals and connect them to some other resources that would help them through the cold weather. So again, thank you to the City of Federal Way.
Thank you.
My name is Sabrina, and I am the Housing and Employment Case Manager there at Fusion. And although I didn't have direct contact with the Freezing Nights folks, I do work with the families that are staying there in our shelter and help them just with common life skills that you and I may all have. Their shortcomings that they need help getting on their feet, and helping them to be a successful part of our community and giving back as our community members as well.
All right, thank you so much. Sarah, would you like to say a few words?
I'll just reiterate the gratitude for Fusion. David Harrison, who couldn't be here, along with Katie and others, really did just a wonderful job this year in shelter. We couldn't do it without Fusion as a strong partner in providing that service. I'd also just say thank you to Patty Spalding-Cluin, who is our Human Services Coordinator, who worked really closely with our provider and Fusion to make that happen. So the kudos goes to Fusion for carrying out that shelter, though.
All right, thank you from a grateful community. Thank you so much. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I would just like to thank Fusion once again, and Sarah Sarah was sending us emails on holidays to let us know what was going on, and I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that we were able to change our criteria a little bit, because every year, you and I have this discussion, and cold is cold and snow is snow.
Yep.
1 inch or 3 inches or
Yep.
half an inch is too much.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah, and
thank
it-
you very much.
And it just got, yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and it just got really dangerously cold really fast. And so at some point, we just can't be, beholden to an arbitrary number. I agree. Okay, well, that's my report. And now let's get on to the most important part of the evening, which is public comment. Everybody's got 3 minutes, unless I see that we do have one for 5 minutes, in which 5 signatures are present, and that person is asked to go last. And also, green means go, yellow means you've got about 30 seconds, so please start to wind up. Red means please stop. I hate interrupting people. Okay, and according to council rules, just please indicate the community you live in, but we don't need your address. And let's go ahead and get started. Making a return to public comment, Ken Blevins. Ken. And in this corner.
And I welcome you guys back to vacation from me. So, council, mayor, thanks for listening to our comments today, or mine specifically. What I came here to talk to you about is the Stevenson Hotel, and I'm glad we got the information today that was required for that. I did go to a meeting, I think it was in December, kind of a last-minute thing with the Housing Authority and Catholic Community Service and so on, and they were saying they had no shelter down here. So I think with all those highly paid people there that were supposed to be doing a job and weren't doing it, it was kind of ridiculous that was happening. So then I think City of Federal Way and was trying to figure out how they could help out, and I think there was a church that said that they could help out, and I don't know what happened with that. And then also, I think it's great that Fusion was able to provide people your basic shelter and cold. So I saw a lot of people out there in the cold, just up against the building and, freezing cold. I don't think I saw any families. I wasn't everywhere in Federal Way, but there's a lot of homeless, drug-addicted people that we still see out there, and I don't think that we're still giving any attention to that pretty much. They said that they were working on that, and I just don't think they're putting so much into housing, and they're so far behind it because they're not doing their job, that we now have this big, huge issue where people are freezing. So if they could be in an addiction facility, they wouldn't be freezing. And so this is just them not doing their job, and we running into a crisis caused by our government. And it's not City of Federal Way that did this. It's the King County government. It's the state of Washington that's not doing it. It's Jay Inslee that's so interested in global warming when we're freezing, and the guy can't figure out that the real issue we have today is crime, people's ability to actually go about their day without being in fear where they live, and people out there that are addicted to drugs and they're being treated like they're homeless. And it's very sad. I wanted to, and so part of that is that I don't think we would have this problem down here and need all these shelters if they wouldn't stop dropping people off here. I see people coming from the bus with carts, with other, wheeled luggage, like they were sent here. Every time they close an encampment somewhere else in another city, they send them here. It's not a Federal Way thing. Federal Way shouldn't have to put up with this. I really would love to see our new council, because our last council voted to have all this housing here and to abide to the state to actually have to regionalize homelessness to here, so our citizens have to put up with addiction because they're not doing their job. I wish we would actually do another vote to see if we can get our current council to vote where our city thinks, and that's with not having them here. So we want them in addiction facilities. But thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheryl Hurst. And then Lana Bostic.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell and the rest of the city council and the people out in the audience. Huge concern. I wish we could just shut our eyes and put Still Lake Park, the annex, to keep everything the way it is. At this point, from what we understand, you're saying, well, that's impossible financially. If there is any possible way to, because the Parks Department deserves something good. The Parks Department has, in years past, always worked with less people, less everything. They deserve something nice. The question is there not anywhere that we can do to save something? There isn't a lot of things for kids around here. And yes, I realize it'll get like rebuilt, but like rebuilt takes time, and like rebuilt costs money. Why not leave something the way it is and, really try harder to put a nice place for the park somewhere else? That's my number one thing. Number two is there probably isn't a more well-run nonprofit here than Fusion. I mean, they're like the rock stars. And in theory, we've got Des Moines that have, the homeless, drug addicted problem. We've got all of Washington. But let's just say it's a regional problem. And in theory, why is it that we're not working with Kent, Auburn, or Des Moines and finding a larger hotel that's more in a more industrial district so we can accommodate people from Kent and Des Moines? Because guess what? So that's what's going to happen. It gets here in the middle of town, and what is happening with that? Oh, then let's see. We're going to have the people from Northeast Tacoma. We're going to have the people from there. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a place. The Stevenson Hotel is a good, somewhat stopgap, but we're not asking them to say, hey, are you drug addicted? You mandatorily have to go into some kind of a treatment program. You can't just house people and expect them to get clean. It doesn't work. So if you put enough cities together and we found a larger thing that was going to help other cities, last but not least, we need to start working together as a community. There is so much, this is this department's problem, this is this thing's. There's plenty of people, there's 101,030 people in this city. There's lots of people that want to help. So all I want to know is, if there's people out there to help, why isn't the police department, why isn't the rest of the city, whether it's code enforcement or other people, and saying, hey, what can we do? What can the city do to help the citizens help the city? I just feel like we need to work a little more together, and I don't know exactly how we would specifically do that, but we used to have somebody, so it'd be nice to have somebody back. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. Lana Bostic. And then Jeffrey Tancredi.
Hi, Happy New Year to Mayor and Deputy Mayor and all the people of the council and the community. I was hoping that 2023 would be a year that we could have some community building in Federal Way and some positivity, so I'll start. I have 3 things to talk about. First of all, I want to thank the mayor and the chief of police for this event that you're having on February 4th where you're going to buy back guns. I think that's stellar. I hope that it's super successful, and I just think it's a great idea to try to get guns out of the community and people to know. I mean, I've already talked to some people today that say, I have a gun that I haven't ever used. I'm going to just sell it back and get a Visa card or whatever. So I think that's a great idea. I don't know exactly who came up with it or whatever, but thank you for doing that, and I hope it's super successful, and will you let us know how it goes, and hopefully you can do it again. I hope you can melt him down to make a statue of George Floyd or something. But anyway, the second thing I want to say is besides being, I forgot to say I live in Federal Way. So besides being a citizen of Federal Way, I'm also the chairperson of the Senior Advisory Commission. And every year we have been dedicated to providing some essential items to residents that need them. And this year we decided to provide to the residents of the Avalon Care Center for Christmas. And we got over 1,000 items for about 100 people that live there that don't have anybody else to provide for them. And I just want to thank, it was from the Senior Commission and also all the different areas in City Hall that people work with. So I want to just thank everybody for coming together and providing all that. And also a big thanks to Amy for kind of orchestrating the whole thing and hauling everything over there. I know they were very grateful. I guess the third thing I wanted to say was, also, I was at the MLK event on Saturday, and I want to say thank you for putting on an absolutely wonderful event. And it was just, the music was great, the dancing, spoken word, it was very powerful and very well done, and I just want to shout out to you guys again, so, thank you. It was interesting, because I was talking to you afterwards, and I told you that I was in high school when Dr. King was killed, and a lot of people don't know what it was like before civil rights and before, and cannot appreciate how it is now because of that. So thank you for kind of bringing that to our attention. Thanks.
Thank you, Lena. And Jeffrey, before we get started with you, well, Lena mentioned it, we do have the gun buyback program. It's on Saturday, February 4th, here at 10 a.m., here at City Hall. And Lena, we got the idea, for the city of Everett did a program, and and that was widely publicized. And so the chief and I got together and decided that we're going to do that here. And so there's details of it in the Federal Mirror, and we actually sent a regional press release out today to let people know what we're doing, to get dangerous guns off the streets and out of homes where they can cause all kinds of damage. Jeffrey Tancredi.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Jeff Tancredi, Federal Way resident. So I just wanted to say, give a thank you to the police department and the city of Federal Way. You know, we use I've been learning how to use the see-click fix when we see something like graffiti or maybe an encampment or some vandalism. So it's just a great tool to use, and I just want to thank the police because I understand that when they do go, like it's fairly frequent when some folks who are struggling, whether it's drug addiction or mental health, they didn't miss a paycheck. These are folks, and they go over to the old Target, and they're over there camping out, and they're trespassing. But also, it's not a good place for them to be. They need to be somewhere where they can get some treatment, some help. So I do the see-click fix because I know that the police and the city give these individuals recommendations. They say, hey, there's organizations that can help you. And so I think that's a great thing. So if somebody can get, the more I do the see-click fix, the better the chance, which is like Eyes on Federal Way, the better the chance that that individual could get into treatment and turn their life around. And so I think I really appreciate what the city's doing with that. And, the card ordinance, the thing is, nobody in this city, their HOA is not going to allow somebody to push a cart in the neighborhood where they live. So if we don't allow a cart to be pushed in the neighborhood where we live and sleep at night, why would we allow it 1 mile away on Pack Highway? Why would we allow it 1 mile away in front of the Target, the old Target? It's hypocritical. It should apply throughout the whole city. No HOA is going to allow someone to sleep on the sidewalk with a cart full of belongings in the neighborhood where they live. They're not going to allow it. Okay? They don't allow it in Colonial Forest. I'm sure they don't allow it in Twin Lakes. I've canvassed, I've knocked on doors in a lot of these neighborhoods, and those neighborhoods are pristine. They are apartment complexes, condominium complexes. They are clean. Okay? So if we have our neighborhoods where we live, if they're clean, then where we go shopping has to be clean too. Okay? The old Target, that place is, every time they they paint off the graffiti, they're back at it again. They're back out there again. So these folks need help. And we want them to get help. We want them to get into treatment, and allowing them to languish on the street is just not good. So the card ordinance, part of it is like to spur these folks to get to the next step, to get help. It's not to hurt anybody. We want a clean city. We deserve a clean city. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Anna Patrick.
Good evening, everyone. So I think people have spoken to the desires of the homeless and what we'd like to see. So I'm going to talk about what we're dealing with for the businesses, the desire for the businesses to protect them. So the businesses, as we know, have been affected deeply by COVID, theft, the people that are trespassing on the property, the supply chain issues, staffing. Our businesses are hurting. People have been online complaining about businesses being dirty. Businesses have to get rid of their cleaning crews because they have to hire security to deal with this stuff. Security often can't do much of anything, so we need the partnership of the property managers. Property managers aren't stepping up in some of these properties. So I'm not sure how we compel them to do that besides competition. You know, there's some vacant spots in other properties. So maybe these businesses will just get tired of what's going on in the property they're renting and move on. It's really a frustrating thing. So I've reached out to some property managers trying to get them to work with the poor businesses that are renting out their buildings, and I'm not getting anywhere. Frustrated. So I think the community needs some tips on when to call 911, what to look for, what to report when they call, what are the valid reasons, what gets a response, what to do if there's no response. We need to partner with the businesses to provide some, we need our city to provide some security tips to the businesses. We've got vulnerable spots inside the buildings. We've got people going in the bathrooms and pooping on the floor, leaving urine on the shelves. I mean, this is happening constantly. Please don't complain about the businesses. My friend Cheryl over here compelled me to go in and help clean up a business because people were going online and complaining about it. Please don't cast judgment on these businesses. They've been hit so hard. And, a while ago, I ran some numbers. In our city, we get about 7,000 calls a year of unwanted subjects and trespass. Of those, that's about 19 calls a day. That keeps our police department pretty busy. Some of these response times are really lengthy. We need more cops. If we're going to keep releasing these criminals from jail, we need more people on the streets, policing the streets. This is getting to a crisis mode here. So also, if you see anything, report it on Eyes on Federal Way. And I thank the city for addressing those right away. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Anna. And thank you for your emails this weekend as well about that pavilion court at that business park. Thank you. And thank you, Chief, for your responsiveness. Craig Patrick.
Hello, Mayor, Council President, Deputy Mayor. My name is Craig Patrick. I live in Federal Way since 1996. This is the commercial aspect of the council meeting. I'm going to promote today's January 17th. 2 short months from now is going to be March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. So I'm hoping we're still on the books for raising the flag, for the Irish flag.
Of course.
It'll be most likely in the morning like we did before. We'll have a little get-together, probably go over to Azteca in the afternoon. We might go to Waterland Arcade, or we might go down to Kenton to do some golfing. That's still in the books. I guess I'm a little early with this. I'm just a little excited about it. Another thing we have coming up in our community is a fish fry at St. Vincent's. This happens during Lent, and the dates are from February 24th to March 31st. So it's the last Friday of March, and we're going to have a fish fry at St. Vincent's. If you ever get a chance to go over there and check it out, it's really good. The first time my friend told me about it, I was like, oh, it's going to be a bunch of fish sticks and potato chips. But it's really quite good. They got mac and cheese, they got coleslaw, they have stuff for the kids, and it's decent quality. It's decent quality fish. So that's the commercial part of it. Being I got a minute and 43 seconds left, I'd like to talk about how Federal Way bears much of the burden for King County when it comes to low-income housing and homelessness. Federal Way historically has always dealt with more of the burden here in South King County. And this is going back to the 90s. And I don't know if this structure was set up that way for a certain reason, but we've been involved with several different organizations that go out there and clean up some of the camps. And we would like to get DSHS more wrapped into the fold of helping these people. So I think that when we go out and clean these camps, we need to roll in DSHS to be more of a partner with helping these people get where they need to be, getting them off the streets. It's embarrassing going to the store and having folks with shopping carts just laying out there. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to talk to them. I'm not sure if I want to go into the school. But one way to destabilize business is by having this around. And I know that the business partners and the property managers have to be engaged with trespassing. And as far as the homeless shelters, we bear the burden here in Federal Way. We have the Red Lion, we have the extended stay, we have Stevens, we have the apartment or the Eastwind Motel. It seems like every hotel is becoming a homeless shelter now. And I wonder if there's a limit on how many we can have. Is there an actual, can we have 50 or 5 or is it going to be 150? Is there no limit on that? And I think it would be really conducive for our city to have some kind of standard where we don't have anymore and start dealing it out to like Kent, Auburn, Redmond, Bellevue, and Issaquah and have them more engaged in the whole process. Thank you for your time.
All right, and thank you. I appreciate it, Patrick. And I thought with the green, I could see with the green shirt and you. Oh, exactly. Okay, I thought for sure it had.
Anne is dressed in green.
I saw that. Anna, but the biggest decision we're going to have to make is who's going to hire the bagpiper and who's the bagpiper is going to be. And okay, well, we'll set up a meeting. We'll talk about that. It just happens to be St. Patty's Day is on Friday, so it's a great way to. That's it. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to have a good time. It's going to be out here. We'll raise the Irish flag and have a good event like we did last year. So that's right. That's right. That's right. We'll have fun with it. And we'll. All right. Okay. All right. Oh, the question you had in regard to limiting the number, I think as we were talking about before, there is a distance provision, and we're going to probably amend that to add certain things in regard to number of schools and daycares, and so the council is going to review that. But there is based on parameters in the rule, there is a finite number that will fit in there. Okay, and they have to be a certain distance from each other. All right, Roxy Sleeper. And then after Roxy, Susan Strong. Susan Strong, yes.
Good evening. I'm not here to file a complaint, but rather I want to bring awareness to the Federal Way City Council about an international foreign organization that is meddling with Americans' freedoms and infiltrating cities, towns, and counties all across the U.S. That organization is the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, or ICLEI for short. This organization proudly claims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve lives and livelihoods, and protect natural resources in the communities. This sounds wonderful on the surface. After all, who could possibly be against that? When you research further, however, you will quickly realize that the opposite is true. Overall, ICLEI's main focus is on 3 components, and that's global land use, global education, and global population control and reduction. Around the world and in the U.S., ICLEI has been able to infiltrate local governments by implementing their own top-down standards and regulations. Things like Climate City Law, which consists of natural gas bans, carbon taxes and fees, and climate policies, which only serve to attack property rights, limit people's ability to move freely, and also impoverish people by adding more fees to their lives as inflation keeps growing higher and higher. According to the World Economic Forum, the U.S. doesn't currently have a carbon tax at a national level. But several states, including Washington State, have already introduced carbon pricing schemes to wipe out the middle class and put them at an impoverished level. Do you ever wonder why it feels like the United States has sold out their own people, and it feels like this more and more every day? It's because they have. Many local governments in the United States now have a partnership with foreign organization ICLEI. ICLEI does not care about the U.S. Constitution. ICLEI decides in their visioning consensus how and where everyone should live. ICLEI wants smart cities where no one has the right to own land and grow their own food, and people don't have the right to own a car unless it's an electric car. So, once again, I have come to Federal Way City Council to bring awareness about this international and un-American entity. Many cities all across the U.S., and Washington State in particular, now pay dues to this organization and submit to their agendas. For those who don't know, King County as a whole now has a partnership with ICLEI. So does Issaquah, Bellevue, Olympia, and other cities within King County. So I just plead to you not to sell out the city of Federal Way and fall for enslavement under the guise of environmentalism. The people of Federal Way are depending on you.
Thank you. Susan Strong, and then Betty Taylor.
Mayor Farrell, City Council members, I'm Susan Strong from Federal Way since 1975. Thank you for the ordinance on the shopping carts. One area of concern that I have are the carts hanging around in the day center on 335th and 13th Place South. I have been watching the parking lot, and there's this one shopping cart, started off kind of modest. I went by there today. It's a small, I don't know what I'd call it, development, and they've added this nice clear plastic over the top so it's dry. I'm thinking they might even need a building permit. It's getting to that size. It might be just about that. And I have pictures if you think I'm exaggerating this. And there were other shopping carts in that parking lot. The day center is getting more and more to my attention, but that'll probably be a different topic for another day. One other thing is, I think that the Operations and Maintenance Division of Federal Way should not take over the Steel Lake Annex Park. Our residents need their own skate park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brian, would you make a note to have compliance people go over there and take a look at the cart? I walked by it today, but I didn't see it. I just didn't put eyes on it. We'll take a look at it, Susan. Betty Taylor. And then Tirza Idahosa.
My name is Betty Taylor, and I live in Federal Way. I just have a concern. So, as being, I'm in the Human Service Commission, okay? And so because of that, we have these OPMA, whatever, Open Meeting Act or whatever, and so we have to do the test or the training or whatever. Okay, and so we did one, and my concern was the presentation. I was really concerned about the way it was presented to us commissioners. I remember the last time we did this, and our human service group, we did this and stuff, and I think that they added more stuff this year. But the way that the presentation was so rough, and it was like, you gotta do this, and to me, you gotta do that, you gotta do, it was done, and it was really rough. And what you have to realize is a commitment that people make to these commissions. We're giving up our lives, we're giving up our times. This is not a paid position. We are all volunteers, and we commit from the heart. But the way that the OPMA came out, it was almost, I don't know, it was just so overkill. To me, it was overkill. After the presentation, I think it was an attorney or somebody asked, does anybody have any questions? Well, yes, I had questions, and I made my question clear. And I talked the same way I'm saying now, the presentation. So in doing the OPMA, however you present it, make sure that you present it in a way that recognizes the commission, that recognizes us and what we do. Instead of throwing, you have to act this way, and you have to act that way, and you have to wear your hat all the time. And remember who you are, and we know who we are. That ain't no problem. We know who we are. We are advocates. And politics, you can't talk politics. Really, seriously. You can't do that, okay? Present it to us in a way that makes us feel good about what we're doing instead of making us feel bad about what the heck? Why am I on this commission? So I do it from my heart. I love it. And I want to be treated that way too. That's all I have to say. So please, presentation is important. And remember who you're presenting it to and how, and the methodology. Right. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you. Tirza Idahosa.
Hi, I'm here today as a resident of Federal Way. I took off my hat as the diversity commissioner so I can speak from my heart. I wasn't going to say anything, but when I'm hearing what I'm hearing, my heart won't allow me not to say something, so thank you for allowing me to speak. Federal Way is a city of opportunity. We are more alike than we are different, and we are better together. If we would only consider how we should treat others like we would want to be treated ourselves. We have to stop blaming people that are the fallout from the greed of the Stackler family who created the opiates. They got wealthy while our friends and family members got drug addicted and are homeless. These are the they're going to jail for crimes of poverty. Nothing else than crimes of poverty. When you want to put somebody in jail for pushing a cart down the street, carrying whatever belongings they have. I think our money could and should be better spent on preventing this type of stuff. I'd like to know what happened to the money that we received from the lawsuits that were won from the Stackler family and the pharmaceutical companies, that all that money should be put into programs and different things to get people off the street, preventive, not harassing people and bullying them for the little stuff that they do have. You're talking about the man that he's not at the bus stop now, so he can't get arrested. He's in the woods made a little house. Y'all don't even want that. I'm just really kind of sick of the fact that we don't treat people human. You know, we don't consider that could be us. And with COVID, a lot of people came to that realization. That could very well be you tomorrow. Again, some of the stuff that we could be doing, and I really disagree with the money that we're now going to hire somebody to have somebody watch while you take the little things people have. And everybody knows it's not just me saying it, but the world is saying it. I appreciate police. I'm not about crime at all. Y'all know I'm a former correctional officer. So I'm not about people just committing crimes, and I think they should be held accountable. But I think crime is different than just being poor. We should stop people from paying high rent. You know, all of the Federal Way can do different. We can be different. We know that people can't pay rent. Why are you letting, after COVID, people's rent went up from anywhere from $100 to $500. So we're putting people homeless. We can't be blameless and then be okay with just making crimes and putting people in jail. There are better ways. There are humanistic ways. And I would love for us, Federal Way, to do different. We have the opportunity to be the city that the world can look at and be different. And I say it daily, and I mean it. We are small enough and close enough that we can be the different, what everybody else is looking for. I would ask you to choose to be different. Thank you.
Thank you, Tirza. Okay, and our last public comment is for 5 minutes, and it's Suzanne Vargo with the signature of 5 individuals.
Got my partner in crime here, Marie Shakwa. I am speaking on behalf of numerous citizens in Federal Way. I am a resident here of Federal Way for 57 years. I am here to inform the public on new information regarding the O&M facility at Steel Lake Annex Park. While we have discussed the deed that runs with the property previously, under the obligation that the city must provide equal or better with regards to the land, we have also discovered information that deals with the specifics of the amenities that make up our beloved park. The Land and Water Conservation funds help the city with 2 grants for the Annex Park that help build out the space with the soccer fields, baseball fields, skate park, trails, tot lot, and restrooms. Although the grant was awarded to King County in 1991, King County and the city of Federal Way signed a grant agreement amendment that transfers the long-term obligations to the city. The city is to operate and maintain the property for public outdoor recreation use in perpetuity. These grants are overseen and inspected by the Recreation Conservation Organization. We're going to call them the RCO. Basically, they are in place, the RCO, to support the sponsors, the city, with upholding the requirements and obligations of the grant contract. The RCO works with the city in case any conversions need to take place, such as taking our park for the city needs. The RCO then will take recommendations to the National Park Service a federal agency, and it is up to the NPS to approve or deny any conversion request. The first steps is that a conversion for acquiring land via an RCO grant must be followed by following an eligibility requirements. That is, what is eligible to purchase. I'd like to answer some of the questions that the citizens have been asking but not received any answers to due to a lack of transparency by our city staff. 1, the city must provide new lands and cannot use an existing park for a conversion. That means this talk of town square being equal or better to is no longer up for discussion, nor is turning lights on at other ball fields within the city. 2, the grant covers the entire boundary of the annex park. If the city wants to take only 17 acres for their development, they will be responsible for supplying the citizens with land equal to the 29.9 acre space. 3, any conversion would entail the city replacing the monetary totals of the amenities at today's face value. 4, a sponsor may propose replacement at different locations. However, each location must be viable as a recreational area and would be encumbered by the Land Water Conservation Fund perpetual obligation. 5, repayment is not an option to remedy a conversion of an LWCF site. At this time, the RCO has contacted the city and spoke with John Hutton of Parks and Desiree of Stormwater Drain Management. Those conversations took place on December 28th and 29th. The city was reminded of its obligation and of the conversion process that must take place. To this date, the city has not done their due diligence. So I am here to remind the city that you will be held to the responsibilities you contracted to uphold. This is a federal agency. Non-compliance will most certainly result in being cut off from any other federal funding grants in our future. Also, please hire a grant writer. The city is required to maintain these spaces and amenities. Neglecting our parks in order to make them less safe or undesirable to the public also falls under non-compliance. The park recreation plan states a community park must be made available within the walkable city core. This is also stated in the comp plan and growth management plans. 800 surveyed citizens also told you they did not want other lands to be purchased, but for our existing park to be fortified and better maintained. If and when the city is ready with its convergence application, it will be brought up before the National Parks Service Board. They will decide if we lose our park. Did I mention that's a federal agency? I don't figure they are used to going against open spaces being taken from citizens in low-income, marginalized areas, removing necessary spaces for school children and the youth that participate at nearby Boys and Girls Club, not to mention destruction of environment and wildlife. The public will have an opportunity to speak 2 times at these NPS board meetings. For now, I urge the city to leave the Annex Park alone, obtain other suitable lands for the O&M. It makes no sense to repay for lands and purchase new lands. Simply find another space. The council and the citizens are kept in the dark while backdoor deals are being made, like spending $250,000 on a study 2 years before it was ever approved, along with an extra
Ms. Vargo.
$285.
Ms. Vargo, your time is up. Go ahead and finish your letter.
Thank you so much. This practice of we do whatever we want and the citizens be damned is going to stop, starting with this park. I urge every citizen to write to the city council, EJ, Keith Nevins, and of course our mayor, Jim Farrell, to be transparent, honest, and respectful. I thank you so much for your time. Please do the right thing.
All right, thank you. Brian, you want to give just a brief recitation of where we're at, not very, very brief, and then we'll have you come back once we've investigated this further. But can you give a brief scenario?
Yes. Speaking on behalf of EJ, he had to leave because they're dealing with the signal at I-5 and 320th that's acting up, so they had a conference call that we could only do at this time with WashDOT. So as to the status of where we're at in the process, so the council approved moving forward with a due diligence phase of looking at the property. And the city's consultant is in that process right now, going down the list of any encumbrances on the property. We talked about the deed restriction before. And then we are the consultant is in the process of going through each agency that needs to be contacted about any jurisdiction or concerns that they have about using that property. One of which is likely going to be the agency that was just mentioned, the state, the RCO is what was mentioned. And so that due diligence is continuing. That's not something that we're ignoring or that we can ignore. But then this is all done. We're gonna report back to the council once that analysis is done to indicate if there are any limitations or restrictions about this site, and if so, what can we do about it? Is it something that we can still do on this site, or are we gonna have to explore other options? So that's in process, and once we have that information, we'll get back to you.
Very good. Okay, thank you. And as soon as we get the information, Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, is there any type of time frame that we expect that information back from the consultant?
I believe they were looking at late spring, early summer is when they were gonna conclude that analysis, if I recall correctly.
But we should have some preliminary idea about the concerns that have been raised.
About this one,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we'll have more information.
When we're trying to go through, I mean, there may be others out there
Yeah.
that we don't know about, so we want to make sure that we're covering all bases. This will be one of them, so that, yeah, it's, now that we know about this one, we'll explore it, but we want to get others as well before we call it.
Very good. And we'll report to the council and to the public. Deputy
Just
Council President?
thank you. Just a quick reminder, how many acres do we need for an O&M facility? How many acres total? What?
It's about 11 acres that was proposed at the current proposal at
Thank
Steel
you.
Lake Park, about 11 acres.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, that concludes public comment. Thank you very much. Now, we are on to presentations. We've got a legislative update. Steve Benet is out ill today, and we've got Brian Davis, but he's got Steve's PowerPoint presentation we'll go through very quickly promptly with regard to legislative update and kind of where we're at right now. The legislative session just started. Brian?
Oops, wrong one. Okay, as the mayor mentioned, I'm filling in for Steve McNay, who couldn't be here tonight. I'm a little stronger on the federal side. He's stronger on the state side. Most of this is state, so bear with me. On the federal side, we meet biweekly with our last year we have met biweekly with our lobbyist, Ben S. Feldman, and we recently had a meeting with our new economic development director, Tanya Carter, as well as our new community development director, Keith Niven, and E.J. Walsh, Public Works Director, to talk about the new session that has been kicked off at the federal level. We learned what some of the emphases may be for this session. We also talked about the last session and some of the asks and applications that we did last year that didn't get funding, and also how to improve our chances this year on some of the funding opportunities that will be available to us. There could be some earmarks, there could be some grants, there are a number of different options. But to summarize, we're going to present something to the council next month on what this agenda looks like from the city's perspective. On to the state. There's the regional suspicion standard for police. There's a Senate Bill 5352, which is sponsored by or co-sponsored by Senator Claire Wilson, to look at some of the pursuit frustrations that came out of a couple sessions ago. And so this is something to look at the reasonable suspicion standard and what that looks like to help provide some clarity and to help the police look at when they can pursue, whereas right now there's a with the laws in place there, it makes it very difficult to do that. There's also been discussions about a quote unquote fix for the Blake decision, and like I said, there have been discussions, but nothing has been formally proposed to date on that. There have been, so on transportation, the governor has proposed some things. There's some concern on the other side as to the timing of what he is proposing and funds available. But as it pertains to us, it's more specific along State Route 18 near I-5, and then just as information as 18 goes along SR 167 and then also Tiger Summit. There's been some proposals, but that has been again, there's still discussion because there's some conflicts between the governor and the state on that. We also know that the federal representation is involved with that as well, but that's some of the delays that we're seeing. On housing, there's a number of different housing. Housing is probably the emphasis of this session so far. Senate Bill 5202 is a very, it's part of a larger homelessness initiative by Governor Inslee. It's to the tune of $4 billion, and under this proposal, it would require a referendum to move forward. But there is this, if nothing else, this is something that gives an indication that there is a strong emphasis on housing this session. Senate Bill 5198 is it's concerning the sale or lease of manufactured / mobile home communities, and creates a right of refusal for tenants when the property as a whole is being put up for sale. So it allows them to have some, the possibility of property preservation before the larger park goes to someone else. So House Bill 1111, this is housing benefit districts. Would authorize the State Housing Finance Commission to administer a housing benefit program. This is supported by AWC. And then the House Bill 1167 is housing regulations. This is basically, to summarize it, it's to make middle housing easier. It provides some SEPA exemptions, which is always, well, I should say always, it's often a hurdle for residential developments to move forward. And then allows for more administrative review just to make the process easier. There is some reservation by AWC, and we're working with them on those concerns. And that is it. Happy to answer any questions that.
Council President?
Thank you. You may not be able to answer this, but I'm just curious. I know that Governor Inslee is proposing $4 billion for housing for those who are housing insecurity, but he's already had $1 billion. What is the intent to? What is this proposal for?
Yeah, it's, we can get you the full details on that.
Yeah, just
like I mentioned before, this is a big theme coming out of this session, which we are likely. It may be another situation where the what comes out of legislation does affect us directly and our regulations that we have locally. But the funding is also for some of the other bills that goes towards planning for middle housing, but then financing some other residential projects that are directly funded from the state, just to increase the number of units.
I'm just concerned what they might try to force us to do rather than, and then when it goes to a referendum for the people to vote on, they need to understand exactly what's involved in this. Yeah, thank you.
All right, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. This morning, I was watching the state legislature, and there was a hearing on House Bill 1178, which is the firearms and local government. So there were a number of city council folks from around the state who were there to testify, and I'm hoping that between Mr. McNay and our lobbyists that we will find out when things are going to a hearing that we are concerned about, that we've asked our lobbyists to work on, and if possible, we can testify. You can testify by Zoom, you don't have to be there. But it would be nice to have our voices heard too, and so it would just be nice to be informed. I'd really appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know that, like I said, Steve can't be here, but I know he's either watching or going to watch this, and we'll capture that concern and get back to you on when you can participate.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. All right, now, on to Council Committee and Regional, thanks, Brian. Council committee and regional committee reports. Parks, Recreation, Human Services, Public Safety. Councilmember Walsh.
All right, the committee met last week ago today, January 10th, and went over a number of items. On the consent agenda today, items B through H moved on from that committee. And our next meeting will be, you can enjoy your Valentine's Day evening right here with the Parks Committee next February 14th.
Bring candy.
Yeah, I'm not going to be here for that. Okay, very good. Land Use Transportation Committee, Councilmember Dovey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. On February 6th, we'll have our next meeting. There's two topics that will be probably of interest. We'll be talking about historical signs that's been sent back to our committee, which I'm sure will be a very interesting discussion, let's put it that way. If we're going to go, what we're going to do. And then lastly, we'll have another presentation, I'm hoping, on park impact fees. We had a brief update that nothing had been, well, a lot had been done, but not enough because of the pool situation. And then we'll be discussing that as a way for funding for parks in the future, which we've heard so much about tonight.
Very good, thank you very much. Finance, Economic Development, and Regional Affairs Committee, FedRec. Councilmember Tran.
We did not meet in the month of December, so I don't have anything to report out. Our next meeting is going to be on January 24th at 5 p.m. here in this room, and also available on Zoom.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, LTAC, Councilmember Sefadawson.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a really good meeting last Wednesday, and Tanya, our Economic Development Director, was there. And again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for leading the charge moving forward. Our next meeting is going to be February 8th at 10 a.m., I'm sorry. And can I go ahead and talk about Regional Highline Forum?
Yeah.
And, the Highline Forum, which Federal Way is a member of, meets bi-monthly, so 6 times a year. And our first meeting is January 25th, and it's going to be here, hosted by the City of Federal Way. And so, yeah. And the mayor unfortunately can't be there, but
right.
I'll try my best.
All right, thank you very much. I know you're going to do great. Thank you very much. All right, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. At the PIC meeting last week, we had a discussion on the King County Regional Homeless Authority, KCRHA. Got it? They have to come up with a 5-year plan, and they had 6 goals that they presented to us a couple months ago, but they added a 7th goal, which caused a lot of discussion at the PIC meeting. And the 7th goal, I will read to you. The region acts as one to address homelessness, which caused a lot of concern among the cities at the PIC meeting. And so I've talked with Sarah to see if this is possible, that she might be able to help us understand this document. And she believes that she can give us some more information on this. The document is not released yet. It was supposed to be released in December, and it may be released later this week or next week or the week after. But as soon as it is, I'm hoping it comes to the Park Commission committee meeting, so that we can have a presentation and that we can understand fully what this 5-year plan is and how it will affect Federal Way. There are 7 sub-regional areas, and our sub-regional area, boy, includes, it seems like everyone from Renton to Algona, which is a lot of cities. So those cities will be asked to have an ILA in the next few years. So we need to understand what it is that this Regional Homelessness Authority is asking cities to do. And Sarah will help us do that, if it's okay, if it comes to the Parks meeting, Councilmember Welch. I attended Skateboard today, and we had a really interesting discussion on the Ultra High-Speed Rail study. This study started in 2016. The state is conducting the study. And eventually it'll run from Vancouver, BC to Portland. We don't know when that's going to happen. but we know eventually we'll need something besides getting in an airplane or light rail that only goes from here to Seattle or wherever. So the state is working with the Canadian government and the government in Oregon to all work together and find out, how we can do this. They're applying for federal grants to study this further. But if you want more information, I can get you more information. It was really interesting to listen to them talk about this, because I've never, they're talking about having it go from perhaps through the major cities along the coast, which doesn't seem to make very much sense to many people at the skateboard. And then AWC City Action Days are in Olympia from February 15th to 16th. It's in person this year. They will also have city action phone calls, which are on Fridays during session at 12:30 every Friday. You do need to pre-register, and if you want that link, I can send it to you. And then on Mondays, they will send out their legislative bulletin every Monday afternoon during session. And, AWC does have a lot of information to share with us, so I'd encourage you all to look at that. And the retreat coming up Saturday. Be there. Thank you.
Here, here. All right, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask for a report in the future from the Day Center. Now, I know that they're an independent agency, but could we ask them to come and give us a report on what their activities are and express our concerns about the individuals who are actually tenting and camping outside their facility?
You bet, absolutely.
There's a child care center right across the street.
Yeah, there is.
Good, thank you very much.
Did you get that? Okay.
And then I was speaking with Pastor Joe Bowman at the PAC at the MLK Day event. He's the pastor for Integrity Life Church, which is located at 376th and 28th Avenue South. He explained to me that he wants to build a community center at his facility. He was trying to get money from the county for that. And I would like us to, I know they're not in the city, but I'd like us to be interested in those kinds of things, primarily because we know that our teens, whether they live on the west side of the freeway or the east side of the freeway, need something to do after school. And so if there isn't anything we can do to help Pastor Joe Bowman, see, there's also the senior center over there, and even though that's not part of the city, it's all part of the county. I think that we should be doing some discussions with those folks over there about how we can, help in any way. I know that there is discussion by our senior commission about having a senior center in our downtown core, and so that's another discussion we're going to be having. So, and then I want to report on the school board, our meetings with the school board directors. They're not ready to meet with us in public at City Hall yet, but we are having ongoing discussions with them. We are talking about, there's certain reasons and certain issues, and so I want to let you know we're having positive discussions with them. The discussions have centered around after-school programs. They want help with that. They want help with the bandwidth for all, internet for all of their students, and I think that might be something coming up hopefully very quickly, mostly maybe from the federal government. And then, of course, we're all interested in security for the schools. The SRO officers, they seem to be quite happy with the SRO officers, and so I'm pleased about that. And then we're talking to them about mentorship. One of the things that we can do to help them is to be encouraging mentors for the schools. And so, our senior commission, Deputy Mayor, might take that up as a topic, mentoring for the public schools, getting involved in that. They may not know how to do that, and they just need to have a contact or some way of doing that.
I already tried to get that going, and seniors didn't show up. I held an event where I was trying to match seniors with youth, and no one showed up on the senior side. We had youth show up, but they didn't come. So how do we encourage that? I was at the senior commission and I asked them to do that.
Mike, please.
I tried to get seniors matched up with students and youth so that they could get to know one another and start having relationships. And I held an event and I was pretty loud about it, and nothing came of it. So we had some kids show up who were willing to participate, but I didn't have any seniors show up.
Okay, that's an excellent idea, Councilmember Norton, so let's talk about that. Maybe we can expand that to the community as a whole rather than just the seniors. Maybe they didn't have the way to, maybe they didn't have transportation.
I don't think I did enough on the part of the seniors. I was more focused on getting kids there. And I didn't go to churches. I didn't reach out to the senior community as much as I probably should have.
Okay, let's talk about that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. All right, now moving on to the consent agenda. These items have gone through committee and can be passed all at once. I'll read them all and identify them and then ask if a council member wants to pull an item for separate consideration. Item A, minutes for the January 3, 2023 regular and special meeting minutes. B, acceptance of transportation grants. C, Valley Narcotics Enforcement Team, VNET, U.S. Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, High Intensity Drug Traffic Area, HIDTA, Task Force Agreements. D, lease agreement between Valley Road LLC and the City of Federal Way for the Downtown Police Substation. E, Global Kitchen, DBA, doing business as K Catering for the new contract catering services. F, resolution authorizing the allocation of funds in accordance with the 2022 South King County and Homelessness Partners SKHHP Housing Capital Fund. G, Parks and Recreation Commission 2023 Annual Work Plan. H, Diversity Commission 2023 Annual Work Plan. Councilor, is there an item you would want pulled for separate consideration? Councilmember Walsh.
Item H, Diversity Commission 2023 Annual Work Plan.
All right. Deputy Mayor, did you have an item?
Yes, item G, the Parks and Recreation Commission Annual Work Plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, any other items to be pulled for separate consideration? All right, hearing none. Council President, do you have a motion with respect to A through F?
Thank you very much, Mayor. I move approval of consent agenda items A through F.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, matters passed unanimously. Item G, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring up on the Parks and Recreation Commission work plan, there are two items. One is the master plan for Brook Lake Community Center and the master plan for Steel Lake Park, which I support both of those, and I think it's really important that we get a master plan over at Steel Lake because we've been trying to do that for a number of years. The reason I pulled this, though, I'd like to bring attention to the Brook Lake property, and under the commission tasks, it lists several things of how this will, this master plan will develop. I would like to see that the city work with the King County Heritage and Landmark Committee, because this is a property that we want to landmark. And we really need to start saving our historical property in Federal Way. So I think it's really important that we add the King County Historical and Landmark Committee to this.
Well, we agree with that. Actually, there have been several conversations about this, and we know this comes from an individual constituent as well that had requested this. It's been very involved and very important. One of the reasons why the city's somewhat reticent is once you have that significant historical designation, it becomes very difficult to do anything else with the property. One of the things that will need to occur right away is this is really one of the old. This is a 356th and just off Pack Highway in the historic property. You've got the aging ballroom that is essentially been red tagged, where the walls are coming out. That needs to come down because it's not safe, and it would be the determination has been made that that on a cost-benefit analysis, saving it or trying to save that wouldn't pencil out. And so once you attach historical significance to it, it gets very difficult to do anything that may be done with remodeling of the property, making sure the historic building itself is, the core building that was the original wagon wheel restaurant, first community center, first library, it's actually where that picture came from. I was 3 months into my term as mayor, it was 10 years ago exactly, where we received that picture that was buried in the walls of that building. So I think we'll need to probably have a conversation about what that would entail and what kind of restrictions it would impose on us that may make that burdensome. But we'll analyze that. But I think attaching landmark status to it right now could be more of a hindrance. I think down the road, we likely will.
I didn't say attaching landmark status now. I would ask that they are on this program to look at the property and see what we can do to maintain it and to make it a historical landmark and bring people there, because we have very few buildings left in Federal Way.
Yeah.
And this was very, very important to the early days of Federal Way.
Right, clearly.
So I'd like them to be part of the beginning and not just the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. John, do you have anything to add to that? I mean, I think it's a good discussion or starting point of a discussion. Anything to, in regard to the actual request?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. That will be a very large group. There's a lot of very interested people, including the Historical Society, probably the Federal Way School District, along with the heritage designation folks that you just mentioned. And the mayor is exactly right. We're supportive of this, but not right this second. But they would absolutely be included as part of a larger stakeholder group.
Well, and I think maybe there's steps that could be taken, as long as I would just want to go into that conversation with a very candid proviso that we want to be careful, but that's something that we can obviously, so the answer is yes. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, but I want to be careful. I think we all agree that we want to be careful, that we can do what we need to do, and so I think we're in agreement. Okay. All right, with that, do you have a motion?
Yes, I move approval of item G on the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. John, would you do me a favor? Shoot me an email about this, who's involved, how we can get them involved, and how we can get them involved maybe at an arm's length at this stage before we get, too far involved. Let's figure that out.
Absolutely. It'll be a while because we're not even down the road yet on starting on a master plan contract or anything like that. But absolutely, I'll send you an email and we'll figure out what steps will be.
Okay. It is, actually, that's a very significant, it is probably the most significant landmark in Federal Way, if you don't count the Denny cabin and the Barker cabin at the Heilbus at 348th. But actually, there's something well, we've got all kinds of things going on, but John, let's.
It does say quarters 1 through 3.
Yeah.
So that could be anytime.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. All right. Thank you. All right, now, Councilmember Walsh, item H, the Diversity Commission Work Plan. What do you got?
Yeah, with the Diversity Commission work plan, the Diversity Commission obviously put a great amount of work into it, and I think they need to be complimented for that. One thing that it doesn't have any type of timeline. If you're to, for example, if you're to take a look at the Parks Commission work plan that we just passed, it had some timelines, what quarter they're planning on doing things in, and the Diversity Commission work plan, there's no, we really don't know what any specifics on that plan. And so I would suggest that it go back to the Diversity Commission for some, for
some guidance,
for a little bit of work on that.
Okay.
And I don't know whether there's any other. I know that there was concern from some of the other council members on things. If anybody else has any ideas.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Let's see if there's any
Any
other
other comment
comments
on
on it, then we can put it in.
Councilmember W.
I was just going to second it so we can discuss it.
Okay.
Okay, all right, it's a motion then, yes.
Okay, it's so moved with a second. Is there any discussion on that to send it back to the Diversity Commission to tighten up the time schedule to make sure it's clear? I see Deputy Mayor and then Councilmember Assefa Dawson. Okay, Councilmember Assefa Dawson first.
I think we had this discussion at the last Parks, Recreation, Human Services Committee meeting, so I believe that was the intent or the plan, so I'm just looking at, I think we already discussed it, so, but.
Well,
that's all my
we just discussed that idea, but then it ended up getting sent to the consent agenda when we probably should not have sent it to the consent agenda to begin with.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
I was just going to say, we're trying to get all of the commissions to be more consistent in how they do things so that it's easier for council, but it's also easier for commissions when they're making their budgets, if they have a budget and their work plans and things like that. So it would seem appropriate to send it back so that it could be, we could have timelines and we could know what to expect, when to see work being done.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but perhaps they can take a look at kind of how some of the other commission work plans are and work from that point. But I mean, it's definitely a lot of work has gone into the Diversity Commission work plan, and so I want to commend them on that.
Councilor David?
I guess I just had one comment. I have not been involved in the Diversity Commission work plan at all. It hasn't come through land use or anything like that. But the one thing I noticed, it was very broad, very policy setting, way more than I've ever seen for specifics. I mean, we usually in the days had specifics about the Martin Luther King event, which everybody was so proud about, that just transpired. There has been in the past the book projects, and this just seemed like a manifesto of we're going to do all these different things instead of specifics of what we're going to accomplish. And I would like to have timelines and things like that. Thank you.
There's actually a call to address the council 4 times a year, or quarterly basis. And I think that just in regard to uniformity of commissions, I think some thought should be given in regard to, is that going to be every commission? So that's one consideration as well. I think we want to be uniform, because we have obviously a number of commissions. But let's, is there any other comment on this? All right, there's been a motion and a second to send it back to the Diversity Commission to iron out timeline and some other details. Is Councilmember Sapadas, or, okay. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. Okay, now, we are on to council business. This is a discussion of AWC Housing Solutions Work Group recommendations. This is a council request to have this discussion. Keith, would you please, Keith Niven, our Community Development Director, just give us and we don't want to get too far into this, but can you just give us the according to your PowerPoint, what's going on here with AWC, and then we'll have a discussion with council. What's going on with AWC with regard to this recommendation and their pending litigation, pending request?
Getting there, sorry. Oh, I need to pop you back out. Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council President Kochmar, Deputy Mayor Honda, and City Council, Keith Niven, Community Development Director. So I think this feels like a good evening to have this conversation. We talked a lot about other things this evening, where things that happen in Olympia, things that happen outside the city affect the city. And I think that is one of the reasons why we want to talk about this agenda item this evening. As was mentioned, this is the Association of Washington Cities established a housing solutions group to come up with recommendations to address housing issues within the state. So the goals of the Housing Solutions Work Group were to identify policy solutions that cities broadly support that will result in creating more housing availability and affordability. The second, ensure proposals are scoped to the true size of the challenge and the true barriers. 3, demonstrate cities' commitment to identifying solutions to impact housing availability and affordability. And number 4, identify areas of middle ground to inform AWC's approach to develop a package and advocacy strategy for 2023. The recommendations, these were kind of themes that came up. Cities play an important role in promoting housing development, particularly in terms of development authority and permitting and infrastructure provision, increasingly accessing revenue tools. Cities want everyone to do their part, but flexibility is on how. Cities do not build housing and do not fully control when and where building occurs. any successful package of proposals that will meaningfully improve our housing and availability and affordability must involve more than just zoned capacity and supply-side trickle-down solutions. And there's a need for significantly more investment in housing for people at income levels that the market cannot and will not serve. So with that, there's a number of recommendations, but there's 4 I really want to focus on because I think these are the 4 that probably mean the most to the city of Federal Way. So the first one is no maximum density allowed within a half-mile walking distance of rapid transit, and that's either rail or bus rapid transit, if 20% of the units are affordable at 80% AMI or below for 50 years. And what this says to me is right now, when you from a planning standpoint, when you want to try and include affordable housing in your housing mix, you really want that housing to blend in with the market rate housing. And what this particular provision does is it says that if I wanted to come in and build an affordable housing project, and I might be getting public revenues or revenues from sources that allow me to do affordable housing, that particular project could be much taller than any of the market housing that might be in the same neighborhood. And what that does is it makes it stand out. And I don't think that that is something that is good for our community, is to have the affordable housing be noticed by sight. The second one is 75% of residential lots in the city must allow for at least 3 units per lot in any configuration. So what that means, to unpack this, is it could be taking a single family lot that with a single house on it and saying you can have 3 houses on it. It might be that you have 1 house and an attached accessory dwelling unit and a detached accessory dwelling unit. But it basically says 3/4 of your city needs to allow for 3 lots at least. And we haven't done any kind of analysis on what this would mean for our city. What I can tell you from a character standpoint is this would dramatically change Federal Way because the majority of our city is single-family zoned. Third bullet point, individual lots can be excluded with a documented finding of an infrastructure deficiency. What that means is we could take that 75% and rule out some areas because maybe there's not sewer capacity or water capacity, or for other reasons that would be maybe steep slopes, critical areas, things of that sort. And then the last bullet point, support changes to the state's building code to facilitate middle housing. And what this is suggesting specifically is applying the residential building code for up to a 6-plex. So 6 units, 6-unit townhouses. Right now, that structure is considered a commercial structure from a building code standpoint. I talked to Scott Sproul, our building official, about this to see if there were concerns. Had some conversations with South King Fire. WABO, the Washington Building Official Association, is also discussing this particular one. And I don't think anybody has an understanding right now whether this is a problem or not. So those are... There's some other recommendations that I don't think are really germane to the city, but those are the ones that probably are worth taking notice of. And I think at this point, I'm going to stop talking, and this is your guys' item. Deputy Mayor brought this up, and I think I'd hand the ball over at this point.
Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. Thank you for looking at this, Director Niven, and responding. The reason I wanted a discussion, that I thought it would be better to do it now than later in this session, is that this session is all about housing. And AWC will be presenting this to our legislators. And at the PIC meeting in December, just about every city had an issue with this. Some of these things just aren't going to work for our city and many other cities. You know, people move to a city for different reasons. One, maybe they can afford it, it's close to work, they have good schools. Whatever reason, maybe they want land. Maybe they want 1 acre or 2 acres or 3 acres. This kind of document makes that impossible. It makes every city like a cookie cutter city that we're all going to look alike. And that's not what people want. Our cities should have the right to develop the way we want to develop, the way that the people who live in our city want it to be developed. And so I have concerns about this document, and I'd like to see us eventually write a letter to AWC, to the Board of Directors there, with our concerns about this.
First, Councilmember Savadasa.
Thank
And
you,
then
Mayor.
Councilmember Adobe.
And thank you for your presentation. One question I have, or concern I have, is around the recommendation, 80% AMI or below. And 80% is high, and it's going to continue to go higher. And so my concern is we're still serving the population that can probably afford, and we're not considering the 30, 60, 50% AMIs. So within that 20%, that is 80% and below, as long as we meet the 80%, we're okay, right? That's the whole idea. And I would like to see other numbers incorporated within that, because if it's at 80%, it does not meet the needs of those below the 80%.
Can I ask for a clarification? So right now, the way that recommendation is structured is that if you have a minimum of 20% of the units are at 80% AMI, then you can basically build unlimited height. And is your suggestion, if that is going to be an incentive, to keep that incentive in place, but 80%'s not the right number, and it should be a lower AMI? Or what were you suggesting, just to be
Actually,
clear?
I would say lower. However, if that's not popular, then I would say within the 20%, where we say 80% or below, then let's break that down. Within the 20% is what I'm saying. Break it down to where, I know it's 80% and below, but I would like to see this percentage of the 80 or of the 20 should be or could be, like 30, 50, 60. Because again, every year that AMI keeps rising, going up, to where people are going to be left out.
So do you not have a concern that affordable housing, multifamily projects can be taller than market rate? Because that's what this is allowing.
No, I understand. My concern still is.
Is about the demising the 20% at 80. Okay.
I'm okay with the 20% is what I'm saying. However, I'd like to see some kind of, add to that a little bit to where the 20% breaks down to some reasonable and realistic, instead of all being 80%, which is, of course, legal, it's okay, but then it leaves people behind, more so. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Adobe, and then Councilmember Wolf.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
And Councilmember Norton.
Keith, thank you for your presentation, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for bringing this up. Reading this, I have some really grave concerns that we don't just take this and be like a dog that won't let go of the bone and go to war on this. I mean, we're going to be one of the, with the Sound Transit coming in, we're one of the targeted areas for what we just heard about, because we're on transportation. I don't know of any neighborhood in this city that wants to have 3 duplexes or tear a house down and put up 3 houses on it. And it's going to screw up our whole city and our zoning. I mean, if we want to have that and make the capacity, then we should be looking now at areas that we want to rezone and have a plan and be the ones who say this is where it's going to go, instead of let somebody other than our 3 representatives in Olympia tell us how we're going to develop our city. This is like ground zero of giving up all the rights our city has and everybody on this council to decide how we're going to take care of this city and what our citizens want. So I mean, I don't know how we can tell them, whoever them is that's doing this, that it's not in our backyard, and we don't really appreciate somebody telling us how to do things. But on the other side, we should be proactive, so we have already dealt with the inevitable that's going to come out of Olympia. As you read what's going on, people are going to tell or vote on, say, here's what you're going to do. So we may proactively want to go through land use and start looking at areas where we could redevelop. where we could meet the needs of people that can't afford 80% of AMI. We already have quite a bit of that in Federal Way. We were the dumping grounds for 20 years as I grew up here in the 70s. So anyway, this is like war, and this should be something that we would really get on and not just have a meeting here. It should be a full-on presentation at land use as soon as we can, and we should be, charging the hill and putting up the barriers and getting the cannons ready and, not just say no, but say, not in our backyard.
Okay, Chuck?
Yeah.
Councilmember Walsh?
I was
Yeah.
next.
Actually, Councilmember Washington, Councilmember Norton. Councilmember Norton, go ahead.
Thanks.
All right.
So I think someone in the audience, her name's Anna Patrick, has done quite a bit of research on how, as council member Dovey said, we've been the dumping ground for low-income housing. We have a disproportionate amount of low-income housing, and Anna Patrick has put a lot of work and effort into researching this. I think we should pay attention. And my concern is, what kind of authority does the AWC have over Federal Way? So they're what they're doing is giving a recommendation to the state, and then the state would say, here you go, you guys are a dumpster, and we're gonna keep throwing trash in you. And I'm not calling people trash, I'm saying that we are paying the price with taxes, a lack of taxes, and also with the kind of fallout that comes from that kind of housing. We've already accepted enough of it, and I feel like King County, they don't treat Federal Way very well, or anyone really around us in South King County. We've all suffered as a result of that, and so I'm sure I'm gonna get all kinds of flack over saying that they're dumping trash on it. I wasn't talking about human beings. I was just talking about the way we're treated. And I'm willing to go to battle with you. Good. And I think that really we just need to get a backbone on this council and fight back. Because I've seen other cities that fight back, and then they don't have to put up with it because they said no. And so what? What's going to happen to us? We might lose a little bit of funding. If we had a grant writer, then that could be easily replaced. So it's just a matter, and if you're wondering about the AWC, maybe you should go to one of their conferences, because I went to one. I know who's running the thing, and they're a global kind of, everybody do the same thing, cookie cutter kind of situation, and I don't think that fits every city. So, we need to take control at this point and say no, and I'm willing to work with you on that and be a part of the fight. But we all have to say no together as a city council, and I think that what we should do is a comparative study, which someone has already taken the time to do that, and just use her information, verify it, and say, hey, we do have the majority of this housing already in our city. Let's put a stop to it. Let's wait until everyone else catches up with us before we take on more. I don't think that's too much to ask. Look at the per capita, look at the statistics, take it seriously, and just say, we're not gonna put up with it. But, that's just two of us.
All right, Councilmember Walsh, the council president, and then Councilmember Cepeda.
All right. Yeah, I've got, obviously have some major concerns with this, and I'm with the other council members on this. My question is with so many cities being opposed to it, how on earth did AWC come up with this piece for their legislative agenda?
WEF.
And I don't know, Susan, I mean, you're more familiar with the workings of AWC. I mean, how does their board of directors come up with
The World
things?
Economic Forum told them to do it.
So this is in response to what AWC believes that the state legislature will be working on this session. And so this is to counter some of the things that they believe that the legislature will be trying to do.
Boy, countering?
So SCA is 38 cities, and there's 281 cities in the state of Washington. So I only heard from the 38 cities in King County. I don't know how the other cities in the state of Washington feel about this. But I am glad that people are concerned about this, because we really do need to be concerned about this. And we need to be concerned about what the state legislature is doing this session on housing, and have a voice and stand up for how we want cities to be able to have control over local zoning. We want cities to have control over how our cities look. And this is part of, this is part of this. So this is what AWC will be presenting to the state legislators. And if we do have this at land use, I would ask maybe if we could invite someone from AWC to come on Zoom, because they're pretty busy down in Olympia right now, and talk to us about this. They represent us. We pay dues to them. They represent us. And so I would think that they would come and talk to us.
Yeah, has this already been presented to Olympia?
I don't know if it has.
I don't think so. This was presented at the PIC.
Okay, I'd say that if it's in action right now, I mean, we can't wait till the next land use committee. I mean, there needs to be action taken immediately, so we do all that we can do to make sure that it's not presented.
Well,
in
the state
Olympia.
is working on housing right now. I mean, there's lots of things going on down there on housing right now, so we need to be very aware of what's going on.
Right, but this obviously is not the solution that we want to see. And so I'd say that we need to figure out something to take immediate action, not even wait for the land use committee.
Council President?
Well, I just want to clarify. So when you're talking about the PIC, Deputy Mayor, I just want to clarify that the PIC is the Policy Issue Committee for, it used to be called Suburban Cities, whatever it's called, Sound Cities Association. So I used to be chair of the PIC for 2 years. And so that's the Policy Issues Committee for the cities everything in King County other than City of Seattle. So that's those cities we're talking about right now. And those cities are probably different than the other larger group of cities that are part of Association of Washington Cities. So I just want to make sure you understand what we're talking about right now. The PIC is that group. So the AWC group, the larger group, with their workforce study, what we want to do, we want to send them a letter, and I agree with that, that would explain that since 1990, when they passed the Growth Management Act, and they decided that in the King County area, all of the jobs, the urban growth areas, would be Seattle and cities to the east, such as Bellevue, Redmond, and that the lower income folks would come to the suburban southern cities, such as the city of Federal Way. And that's what they made their decisions on. That's why all of the transportation money went to where Microsoft was, where Redmond is, and believe me, I saw that when I went to lobby on behalf of this city for money for transportation. We were so proud we got $12 million when Redmond got $200 million for roads around Microsoft. And so pretty frustrating for me. But here's the issue. What we need to remind them of, we really have our policy targets already. And I believe that, Keith, you've already demonstrated that with, they always call it market rate, but it really is lower income housing. We have most of those targets already. What we have a lack of is middle income housing, or people, like teachers and so firefighters, those kinds. And then, so there were also higher income housing. We have a lack of that. I can't remember what the percentage was. So we can't forget the entire picture, but I think that without getting into all of that, I think that what we do need to say is that we've already, as this city, has already accepted our targets. We've been actively working on this for many years. We need to have you understand that we have issues that we need to address under local control. You cannot take that away from us. And I think we need to put that in the strongest words possible.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Suffolk Dawson?
Yeah, Keith, I just wanted to, the work group members, a lot of them were from outskirts, right? Like Vancouver all the way to north and stuff. So it was a large group, right, that studied this. But I didn't see anybody from South King County. I know there was Redmond, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Bellevue was part of it, I know.
Yeah. So, but I didn't see anything from South King County. But I think, to everybody's point, if we do have a presentation, I think someone from that committee or the person who staffed that group would be a good person to tell us the reason behind it, maybe. And I don't know how long they worked on this. I just remember seeing the list. So I'm just saying maybe it'd be great to have them also be part of
I would
this
say first and
conversation.
foremost, our lobbying team needs to get to our, and it's already part of our legislative agenda priorities to address this issue. But we need to get to our individual legislators ASAP. Councilmember Dovey, then Deputy Mayor, then Councilmember Walsh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think, as I'm listening to this, we need two prongs. As the mayor just suggested, I think we need a very strong letter to our two representatives and our senators so they understand what we think Federal Way should be like. Because they're the ones who are going to be voting on this. It's getting lobbied by AWC, whoever else, and they're going to be making the votes if it comes up in Olympia this year. So, that would be my first prong. The second would, we as a council should preempt all this with our land use if we're going to make any changes or we're going to do anything, so we're already prepared and prepared the way we want to be prepared. Because if it's at this point right now and they're talking about it at AWC and making recommendations, it's going to be down our throats in another year. And if we don't start acting proactively today, like Councilmember Norton said, hey, let's go make a platoon, and who's going to carry the bazooka and who's carrying the carbines, and go make it happen, because it takes a platoon to be effective in a war, and this is really the first shot of the battle and the war.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Oh, I was just going to thank Director Niven for his, he read this right away and had some response to me, and getting this on the agenda here today so we could have a public discussion about it.
All
So
right.
thank you.
And I've got an idea I want to share with you about how we can move fast so we don't have to wait to our next council meeting before we can get everybody's signature on this. I've got an idea I need to run by you, but Councilmember Norton first.
I get to carry the bazooka.
All right. Okay, metaphorically, obviously, what we're talking about, and exactly.
Wait, I don't think that's part of the buyback.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Okay, so we don't have exact language. Here's the issue. One of our commissioners, Betty Thomas, was actually Betty Taylor, was talking about the OPMA, the Open Public Meetings Act. Yep. We don't have exact language on a letter right now. However, we also don't want to wait, I would imagine, we do not want to wait to the first meeting of March because things are moving quickly. Is there general consensus for the council in opposition to this? And I just ask that perhaps the letter can come from me directly, but indicate that there's a consensus on council on this, and that in the interest of moving fast enough.
Can't we just sign it? Can't you just go ahead and we can sign it because we're already approving it?
Ryan, do we have Ryan on? Okay, Ryan, can you opine about how we can accomplish this in accordance with OPMA?
So, Mayor, short of the council crafting language from the dais right now, I think that you would need to sign it.
Right. Yeah, we just want to make sure that we're doing everything. But I guess here's the question. Let me ask it this way. Is there a motion to have me send a letter in opposition to this for the reasons stated herein, for language to be determined by me and my staff, but in accordance with the concerns that have been expressed on the dais so far?
I'll second that. I'll make that motion with the caveat that you clearly indicate that we are copied on that letter.
Yeah,
That's right.
And I second.
Okay, there's been a motion, a second, Deputy Mayor?
I was going to make the motion, but no problem.
Okay, very good. Okay, is there any other discussion? Is anybody, let's just make sure we're, because we're going to be I'm going to be sending a letter on your behalf. Is there anybody that has any concerns or reservations about this?
Do we get to see the letter first?
Well, we've got to be careful that we don't get into a situation in which I want to be very careful that we don't engage in an OPMA or even constitute or cobble together. I think we'll have to make sure that I'll send it to you after I send it.
How about if we can come in and read it, if you don't want to put it out on email to us?
Well, I think the same
How
thing
about if we
occurs.
just send
I
the
think that
letter?
what happens is there's case law. Ryan, you want to talk about that real quick, just about, because I think
Sure.
there's constructive.
I think the
Sure.
most important thing is that we get a letter sent ASAP.
Right.
Just send the letter and worry about seeing it afterwards.
Right. So what the mayor's getting at is serial decision making. So we meet with each of you individually and reach a consensus that way, that's no less a violation of the OPMA than if we just pass the letter around.
Yeah.
Let's just get the letter done.
We're going to get the letter out. We're going to communicate. So there's a twofold. Thank you, Ryan. Sorry to cut you off, and thank you for participating.
That was a goal of why I thought it was important to have a discussion tonight on the dais so that we could get a letter written. So if this is a way it can be done, it needs to be done.
I will make it clear. This comes from the council. I'll also make it clear that the reason the signatures are not on the letter is because we didn't have exact language, and because of the urgency of the moment.
Okay, call for the question.
Okay, there's been a motion, a second, and discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you, Keith. All right, now,
But my name is.
confirmation of city council executive assistant. So this would be that's Amy Glandon, who's done a phenomenal job. No staff presentation, as this is a housekeeping item, as our city code calls for it. Deputy Mayor Honda, do you have a motion?
Yes, I move to confirm Amy Glandon as City Council Executive Assistant.
Second.
There's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion?
She's done a fabulous job. February 7th will be her anniversary.
And we're very happy with her. Thank you.
And I'd like to hear from Amy on that.
No,
I'm just joking, just joking.
Okay,
We
all
love
right.
Amy.
Did you want to say anything?
No, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, very
yay.
good. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's official, Amy. You're it. Yay. Unanimously. Okay, ordinances, first reading. Item A, Council Bill 840, 2022, various code amendments. First, we'll have a staff report from Natalie Kamenicki, Associate. Natalie, did I get that right? Kamenicki? Yes. All right.
Can you say it 10 times?
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to, Natalie is going to give us, our associate planner is going to give us a report. I'll ask if there's public comment, and we'll go from there. Natalie?
Thank you, Mayor Farrell. One moment.
Keith, would you please see me after the meeting about the letter?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'll have you and Brian work on this tomorrow.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Council President Kochmar, Deputy Mayor Honda, and City Council members. Tonight, I'm here just to go over the 2022 various code amendments that were contemplated during that year. And this would be forwarded from the LUTC for first reading tonight. A little bit of background. On September 16th, the city issued the determination of non-significance for these various code amendments. There was a 2-week comment period and an appeal period ending on October 21st of 2022, and no appeals were filed. During that comment period, the city received comment in opposition of the proposed amendment to allow small mechanical units such as air conditioners or generators within side or rear yard setback in the residential single-family zone. The public comment is included at the conclusion of the staff report. And no other public comment was received on the other 9 items that we will go over tonight. So briefly, starting with item 1, this pertains to boundary line adjustment submittals, and this code amendment aims to achieve consistency with the way minimum information is submitted for applications within our subdivision code. So we would be adjusting the minimum application requirements section to be referencing a bulletin, which is consistent with the other applications in that chapter, such as a short plat or a preliminary plat. We have bulletins, which is a handout to assist applicants in submitting those permit applications. Item number 2 pertains to hearing notice requirements. This cleans up public hearing and appeal hearing in certain sections of the code, since notification and procedures for appeal hearings are already in its own section. Item number 3 is pertaining to process 6 council rezone criteria, and this further clarifies the factors and criteria that we look at for those types of applications and would make the code more consistent with the administrative procedures that the city regularly reviews these applications under. Item number 4 is an update to the affordable housing definition. This would be updating the data source from median county income to area median income, and this would be more consistent with the industry standards for obtaining that data. Item number 5 is a cleanup within our community design guidelines, and this would remove one site element, phone booth, from preferred site element amenities that can be provided. It also corrects a misdirection within our district guidelines where within the residential land use or zoning category, when a non-residential use would be constructed, it needs to point to non-residential building and site design standards. Item number 6 pertains to the structures and improvements within side yard setbacks. This provision will allow for an air conditioning unit or other small mechanical type unit within the side yard setbacks within the single-family residential zone. Item number 7 is an update to be consistent with state law and is inserted as a footnote within our zoning chapters for minimum parking standards for certain types of developments within a quarter mile of certain transit stops, and those transit stops must meet a certain frequency on an hourly basis in order to utilize these new provisions. Item number 8 is a correction to the wetland review distance. The maximum wetland buffer is 300 feet, and currently our code reads at 225 feet for the minimum requirement for providing a report on what any mapped critical area wetland would be when applying for development permits. Item number 9 is simply a correction to the multifamily header on one of our zone charts, and there's no substance change to that item. The 9 items briefly went over just now were heard by the Planning Commission at a public hearing on November 2nd, 2022. After discussion and deliberation, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the proposed amendments, and the vote was unanimous, and the hearing was closed at that time. The Land Use and Transportation Committee heard the following 9 items at its January 9th, 2023 meeting. And at that meeting, and after discussion, the committee recommended to move all 9 items to City Council first reading. That concludes the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much, Natalie. Stay close, please. Stephanie, do we have any public comment?
No, Mayor, I don't have anyone signed up.
Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 840, 2022, various code amendments, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to various amendments to Titles 18 subdivisions and 19 zoning and development, amending Federal Way Revised Code 1810-030, 1905-010, 1970-060, 1970-150, 1975-060, 1980-140, 1911-010, 1915-050, 1915-090, 19-125-160, 19-130-020, 19-145-410, 19-145-440, 19-195-015, 19-200-020, 19-200-045, 19-200-100, 19-205-010, 19-205-040, 19-205-070, 19-205-080, 19-215-050, 19-215-070, 19-215-150, 19-220-050, 19-220-080, 19-220-100, 19-220-105, 19-225-055, 19-225-070, 19-225-075, 19-230-055, 19-230-060, 19-230-065, 19-240-085, 19-240-095. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you, Seth.
All right. Councilmember Adobe.
Could
you have
you
a motion?
repeat the 19.2? No.
Yeah, exactly.
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the February 7th, 2023 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Item B, Council Bill 84, Natalie, great job. Thank you very much. Council Bill 841, creation of a city clerk department. Staff report from Brian Davis, our city administrator.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We discussed creating a human resources department, and Mayor and council recommended also creating a city clerk's department. So that's what this is proposing. The city clerk's office is the primary point of contact for the public and staff regarding the city's legislative action and official information. They provide the link between the community and elected officials in an effort to enhance public participation in the municipal process, provide transparency and access to essential public records, and ensure continuity for the city of Federal Way by recording and retaining historical and contemporary legislative actions. It's the mayor's recommendation that we create a city clerk department. That is it.
Council, any questions? Councilmember Sapadowson?
So with that change, does the title change with it?
No.
Nope. No change in title, no change in pay. Just kind of codifying what's already in existence. Councilmember Dovey, did you have a?
Oh, I forgot to, I was still thinking about the ordinance 1902.
Me too, exactly. Okay, seeing none, do we have any public comment?
No, Mayor, I don't have anyone signed up.
Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 841, creation of a city clerk department, an ordinance of the city of Federal Way, Washington, relating to the creation of a city clerk department, removing Federal Way Revised Code 211030 and adding new section 219 to Title II.
All right, and Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the February 7th, 2023 council meeting for second reading and enactment, and congratulations.
Second?
It's been a motion, and a second. Is there any discussion?
I would simply like to say, after her having to read that previous one, she may need a pay raise.
Exactly. Here, here. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, and on to second reading. All right, second reading and enactment. Item C, Council Bill 835, ordinance establishing a procurement standard related to compost products used in government-funded projects and maintenance per House Bill 1799, Organics Management Law. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 835, ordinance establishing a procurement standard related to compost products used in government-funded projects and maintenance per House Bill 1799, Organics Management Law, an ordinance of the city of Federal Way, Washington, relating to procurement of compost products.
All right, and Councilmember Dovey, do you have a motion?
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Item D, Council Bill 836, Ordinance, Chapter 8.43, establishing weight and load regulations with the city. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 836, Ordinance, Chapter 843, establishing weight and load regulations within the city. An ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to weight and load regulations, amending Federal Way Revised Code 840030, designated vehicle routes, and adding a new Chapter 843, Federal Way Revised Code Weight and Load Regulations, including Sections 843010, 843020, and 843030.
All right. And Councilmember Dovey, do you have a motion?
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
Been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. It passes unanimously. Item E, Council Bill 837, Ordinance, Planning Commission Code Amendments. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 837, Ordinance Planning Commission Code Amendments, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to the City Planning Commission, amending Federal Way Revised Code 290020 and repealing Federal Way Revised Code 290030.
All right. And Councilmember Dovey.
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. Item F, Council Bill 839, Ordinance, Creation of a Human Resources Department. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 839, Ordinance Creation of a Human Resources Department, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington relating to the creation of a Human Resources Department, amending Federal Way Revised Code 211040 and adding new Section 218 to Title II.
All right, Council President Kushmar.
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. Council reports. Councilmember Dovey.
Yes, we heard about St. Patrick's Day coming 3 months forth, 2 months. Anyway, I was asked to put a plug in for the Marine Hills Swim Club. It's going to be their 60th year anniversary in May. Now, since we're planning ahead, I'm giving everybody notice that you'll probably hear about this. They've been in our community for 60 years, and many of our children swam at Marine Hills or Twin Lakes or wherever it was in the day. So I'm just bringing that up so everybody has it on their calendar. Don't have a date, but it will be showing up. And the other thing I wanted to make a comment, we passed the ordinance about the Planning Commission, and I believe we're going to be talking about the other commissions where the alternates have voting opportunities when the quorum's not there. So want to make sure that we keep that on our agenda and keep moving it forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Walsh.
Yeah, just a couple of things. First, I have some disagreement with concerns about what the Federal Way Public Schools does. However, they are doing a few things right. This last week, I had the opportunity to attend a meeting to kick off what they call the incubator. It is a program which helps the high school students that are interested in entrepreneurship to be able to gain experience and knowledge and things. A great program that I plan on being involved with and encourage community members to be involved with it all. When kudos are due, I think that we should give them. Other than that, the most important thing is my wife does listen to the meetings on TV, and earlier she sent me a text which reads, "Seriously, you're having a meeting on Valentine's Day?"
Make it a short meeting.
That's the end of my report.
Wow, exactly. Boy, I'm trying to think of a really good one, but later. Councilmember Tran?
Jack, I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't help you in that department. I don't have anything except to wish everybody happy Lunar New Year. It is going to be on Sunday, the 22nd. Vietnamese people, Chinese people, and some other, we celebrate Lunar New Year. It is the most important celebration during the year. So just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Norton.
I don't have it. Oh. Mike? Thank you so much. I have nothing to report.
Thank you so much. All right, Councilmember Seffa Dawson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone. I don't have anything to report except to say Martin Luther King Day celebration was amazing, like everybody said. What a talent Federal Way has, though. I think they were just, everyone did well, from the littlest kid to all the adults. So I just wanted to say that I'm just proud of the talent that we have in our city. And I hope that's not the only event where we showcase this. Maybe there's got to be another one, maybe Federal Way's Got Talent type of thing, where we can actually have people come and do these kinds of things, because once a year is just not enough.
Here, here.
Thank you.
All right, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I would also like to thank the Diversity Commission for their program on Saturday. As a past Diversity Commission member, I know how much work went into planning our events for MLK, which we normally held at Decatur High School. So there's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of months to get all that done. And congratulations, it was a great event. And for the second year in a row, the Federal Way Seropolis Club will be having a drive-through food drive for the Senior Center in Auburn, Federal Way. We're having a kickoff event on Saturday, February 4th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Federal Way Tool Library or South County Tool Library. And you can just drive through, we'll take your food, and we will be doing that all month long. Our end date is February 27th, which of course the next day is really an important day for the city of Federal Way. It's their birthday. So cute. And anyway, so the Tool Library is open Monday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and Wednesday, 2 to 4 p.m., and Saturday, 10 to 2, and we'll take food donations each of those days. If you have a food donation, you can't get there for whatever reason, please give us a call at the Tool Library. We will come and we'll get that food, because the senior food bank needs to be restocked, and we did this last year. It was very successful, so we want to be more successful this year.
Is there a list?
We do have a list. We need canned soup, pasta, beans, jarred sauces, fruit cups, applesauce, pet food, canned vegetables, canned chili, tuna fish, cereal, peanut butter.
All right, Council President.
Just want to remind everybody about our Saturday event, where we're going to talk about the future of our city and invite all of you to come to our annual retreat held at Dimas Bay Center at 8 a.m. That'll go until 4, but come at any time during the day and listen in. And Councilmember Walsh, I thought your wife was going to say something about a glare from your... But
wow. Wow.
No. I like bald men. I do like bald men. I was married to a bald man, so that's fine.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. Remember the hot breakfast. We'll save you a slice of bacon. Hope to see you on Saturday. Great job, everybody. Maybe. Exactly. All right. Have a great day. Thank you, Council. Great job on this. We are adjourned.